work in a relation with a guy that makes 60 grand a year.
Right.
You want me to argue?
So he can find, he's found a few, prospects, but some of them are North Jersey, and he doesn't want to try. He lives in Lumberton, so.
I commuted to the Bronx.
Jeez.
10 years.
And you drove?
Pat is going to be asking.
There is no train. Like, his office was in Princeton before, but.
Rosenthal, the third one to be agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
What do I call you?
Just Miss. I didn't change my name.
I didn't think
Dear
you
God.
were for township.
Yeah.
I think they made him a manager.
I'm the only reason I'm sad about it is my son.
But they were sending a lot of the work down to Mexico.
It's time to change.
They got off of, worked for an architectural engineering firm.
Different when I grew up.
So they had New York, Philadelphia,
That wasn't.
Virginia, Mexico. No, he works with the plumbing.
Is this the bill? I know, it looked like crap. Okay. You didn't send that's what they made by email. Did you put
No.
your resolutions on your letterhead?
Something, yeah, because I know he helps with the systems, with the sprinkler
And
systems.
this one.
And he took
And this thing
classes,
about Bruce.
along something with the plumbers. He got him in good with them, so he's got a lot of friends there that are, trying to keep options open.
Hello, dear. How are we?
I don't know, probably.
We are tired, that's where we are.
The board's not going to make a decision. And he's sitting here.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I know you wrote me, and I just wanted to make sure.
Go back into it. Right. Back into it.
No.
How you doing, Tish?
Yeah, you can take, I'm not going to sit.
Missed you the other night at the meeting.
I got to stand up for the flags.
Environmental.
It's too hard. Getting up and down.
Oh, yeah, you know what, I got that right after.
Always need help.
Oh, I thought you got back the day before.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you,
yeah,
hon.
but then like late in the afternoon, so by the
Yeah.
time I got finished out. And like I said, I just missed it, missed the news. And I had fun.
We had a couple of guests.
Did you discuss anything about the whales or anything?
Okay.
Is that coming up?
Yes, please.
No.
Went from too much to too crazy.
So which one of these is yours?
Hey,
Mine
how are
was
ya?
white. Mine was white because it fit in my phone. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I do.
You're like.
Okay, thanks.
What was interesting? That's a long, there's a long.
I just went history this morning. I left at 11 o'clock. So that was fun.
kind of
And then I came back. So
White
I don't
and skinny. Very thin.
Right, I'm gonna have to look for it, and then I'm gonna have to deliver it.
hopefully it's just short. Oh, Mayor Klaus isn't going to be here, so that's Josh.
Really good.
You gotta kind
I
of,
forgot.
you gotta kind of put those things aside, yeah.
Uh-oh. Here, but I usually adjust them when I'm in. Well, we're having all kinds of audio issues.
Oh, so I'm looking at
No, this last night was a hot mess with my meeting.
do some sign language, just go slow for me.
Oh, I got plenty of sign language I could use. Yeah. This is me from now on.
That's a new meme. I like that.
This is so I don't give away my body language.
We need to make a meme of
Mona Lisa. Need Botox.
Wonder where my boyfriend. Wonder where David.
An ordinary amount of Botox so that my expressions don't change.
Like some of the politicians.
the one on Good Road.
All right, so this is dead.
It's what?
It's gone. It's H now. Or what now?
I gotta go make a
No go-to meeting tonight.
Oh, good.
It's the computer's dead.
Oh, so you're good to go? Ready to go?
Can you give me 1 second? I just need to go make a copy of this.
What is it?
They
One
bought
copy of
that piece
that.
of land and then they deeded it
I think
to
our door might be open.
build
but-
it.
Yeah, Bob needs that copy. Okay.
We're good? Call to order, please. Will everyone rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a reading of the Sunshine Law, please?
Notice of this meeting was published in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay, there will be no new business started after 10:30 PM. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Klaus, absent. Mr. McKay,
Here.
Mrs. Kelly,
Here.
Mrs. Gilmore,
Here.
Mr. Tricoci.
Here.
Mrs. Tyndale,
Here.
Mrs. Baggio,
Here.
Ms. Costco.
Here.
Mr. Marita, absent. Mr. Bradley,
Here.
Mr. Murphy, absent. Mr. McLaughlin,
Here.
and Mr. Kroll Pfeiffer.
Here. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Items for new business. First one is the ARC of Burlington County. And Mrs. Gilmore, I have to say goodbye to you.
Yes, sir.
You're going to come back for the next cases, right?
Yeah, I'll be in the kitchen.
Okay.
Excuse me, Gus. You'll also have to recuse yourself because there's only 7 voting members. You're sitting for the rest. You can go there.
What is the reason he has to recuse himself?
Because it's only 7 voting members for use variance, and he's sitting in the mayor's spot.
Okay, just checking. Okay, Councilor McAndrew.
Good evening,
May we
I'm
help
Pat McAndrew, I'm representing the applicant. I'm going to have 3 potential witnesses. Bill Nicholson, our planner and engineer, Dwayne Belton, our contractor, and Joanne Nevedalski, who is the principal director of the organization.
Okay, do you want to have them all come up and have them sworn in at one time?
Sure, that'd be great.
We'll save some time.
Oh.
Everyone raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony you give tonight to be the truthful truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. In terms of a presentation, I was going to have Joanne give an overview of the use. It is a non-conforming use which we are modifying slightly with these 2 structures, and that's what gives rise to the use variance issue. And then I'll have Bill Nicholson do the engineering and the planning testimony. Dwayne's available in case there's contracting type questions that we can't answer. In terms of focusing this, this facility has been there many years and is a non-conforming use at this point. It's being modified really to have shelter, both on the entrance, so we have a portico for that, for drop-off and pickup, so people are out of the elements. And also we have a activities area that used to be a pool. The pool's been removed, but we still use it for activities. And we want to put a pavilion there, a roof, much like you have in parks nearby. And that'll give shelter to people who are outdoors doing activities, whether it's play or other things, training. And the idea is that we're not really changing the facility in terms of the building square footage, the employees, the hours, the nature of the use, but we're giving shelter in these two spots where we need some shelter, because we're using the entrance and we're using the pavilion area, but we don't have any shelter for it. So with that in mind, Joanne, can you tell us about yourself, like how long you've been with the organization and what your job is?
37 years and various positions, and I'm currently the executive director at the ARC of Burlington.
In general terms, what is the use and how does it operate?
It is used currently for adults with developmental disabilities as a day hab. So they meet there. There's various activities ranging from personal care. They do community outings. And it currently, I don't know, do you need to know how many people are currently there? I mean, getting services?
Well, I'm sure you're licensed for a certain number. Is that number going to change as a result of these structures?
We have allotted for 39. We currently have maybe 29, so that will allow 10 more people to come in and get services. But that's what the building will allow as well.
Your license allows that?
Yes.
But the facilities we're providing here, the portico and the pavilion, they're not per se increasing your license or anything?
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't change anything. No.
Does it change your hours? employee
No, it
hours?
changes nothing.
Okay.
Changes nothing.
How do your clients come and go? How does that work?
They're transported in. We have staff that pick them up at various, either a residential group home or from their own homes. The staff use their vehicles to drive in, then they pick up a vehicle, go out, pick them up, and drop them off, and then stay for the remainder of the shift.
Okay, and when you have the portico, the idea is that these vans can go into the portico and drop people off in bad
Right,
weather.
especially if someone, let's say they are using a wheelchair, walkers, it would make it a lot easier and nicer for them to have a protective cover.
Okay.
That's really the key point on this, is so that they can be dropped off under a protective cover.
And what's the purpose of the pavilion area in the field?
When we lost the pool, which had kind of outlived its usefulness and it was in disrepair, so we decided, though, we lost a recreational area. So the pavilion would offer that, and it offers more seasonal use. They can use it through the fall and maybe even early winter, but it just gives them an opportunity to have an area that's recreational. They can eat lunch out there and do even some of their activities out there.
Okay, and the pavilion gives them a roof area that's shelter and out of the
Correct.
sun, out of the elements?
Correct.
Okay. How many employees do you have, and is that going to change as a result of this application?
It could change, but not really dramatically, not really. We currently have 5. It could go up to 6.
So maybe one more employee at
Correct.
most?
Right.
And how does trash work today, and how is your lighting? Let's go through some of the site issues.
Right, so we currently have a dumpster from Waste Management, gets picked up once weekly. We also, I think, utilize the front building utilizes the township recycle and trash. They don't generate enough, though. And we have that additional dumpster for any increased trash that we might have. That's tucked away kind of towards the back of where we have a garage, and so it's not really in the way or...
Not visible from the street?
Not really,
Okay.
no.
And the front building is for offices?
No, we actually have 10 people who are in that building as well. There's 10 senior people with development.
clients?
Yes.
Okay. And how about the back building? What's in there?
Currently 29, could go up to 39.
Okay.
That's the goal, yeah.
Okay. How is the parking in terms of adequacy today? You have enough?
Plenty, yeah.
And that's because you rely mostly on the van service?
Correct, like not having individuals coming in with a single vehicle, they're getting dropped off. So yes, it's never been an issue. We've got plenty of parking.
Okay. Any lighting or neighborhood concerns?
I don't believe so. We've never heard anyone ever ask, to dim our lights, turn off our lights. No, I don't think that's an issue. We're far enough away from neighbors, in the back anyway, that it would present a problem, so I don't think
Okay.
so.
Before I go to Mr. Nicholson, does anybody have any questions about operations?
I guess I just have one, only because you mentioned the dumpster. Where is that on the map? Can somebody show, not now, if it's,
Okay, yeah, we will. We can
okay.
show you.
Was that previously approved?
Oh, it's been there for 20 years?
That wasn't my question.
No, it wasn't, I don't believe it was previously approved. No, not that I'm aware
Okay.
of.
I mean, there's not a problem with it, I'm just asking to get it all on the record.
No, I can have Bill look at it, but it's by the existing garage and pretty much out of sight.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
Oh, the dumpster's by that.
He's got a concrete pad.
Counselor, I think, I do have one other question about the pool. You're proposing to put this pavilion where the pool was.
Yes.
Now, is the pool covered, sealed, filled?
No, the pool's gone.
It's, oh, gone,
Yeah, it was demolished with the permit, and it's gone.
okay,
Yeah, so
Thanks.
it's replacing the pool in the same area, but the pool's gone.
okay, great, thank you.
Bill, can you tell us about yourself in 50 words or less?
Sure. I'm a professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey with a current license. And I've been practicing land development primarily in northern Burlington County for the last 30 or 40 years. Doing just work just like this.
And you've qualified as an expert in those fields before this board and other boards in the county.
Yes. Sure.
Any
Now,
questions?
any questions from any of the board members? If not, your witness is acceptable, Counselor.
So why don't you describe the changes in the site that we're talking about tonight?
Sure. Okay, the main thing we're doing is adding the portico here to the rear of the building. And to facilitate the maneuvering in and out of that, we add a strip of paving here, which we show in the shaded area here, which allows a couple extra parking spaces back here, and allows extra maneuvering room in and out of the portico. And then over here is the pavilion over here. The pool used to be more located about here, so it's not exactly the same spot, but the same general area. The pavilion's over here on the angle, which is a 36 by 72-foot pavilion, interconnected with the facilities with a proposed sidewalk.
Okay, and that's an open pavilion, sides are open.
All four sides open, yes,
Yeah.
roof only.
Okay. And from a planning perspective, we're modifying a non-conforming use. What are the positive benefits to these two shelters modifying the use?
Well, as the applicant testified, I believe it's because it facilitates, better convenience for the clients. Keeps them out of the weather.
Could you step closer to the microphone, please?
It provides the services, better services for their clients, keeping them out of the weather as they come and go, and then for using the yard area in a roof area and out of the sun, out of the elements if they want to be out there in inclement weather.
Okay. In a sense, the use is staying the same, but these are like modernizations of the site.
Right, just to facilitate the use, yes.
If the board were to grant this, the changes in the use and the site plan, any negative impacts that you see?
Not that I see, no.
So you see the benefits outweighing any negatives?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm not sure we identified where the dumpster is. Can you help with that?
Yeah, well, the existing garage is located here, and it's in the front right corner, right here. Let's see what it's like. So it'd be in the, right off the southeast corner of the existing garage. On a concrete,
Between the garage and the road?
yes, but off to the right side, yes. On the concrete pad that surrounds the garage.
Do you want to go over the letters? You want us to let them go over the letters?
How do you want to do it?
I think that's our direct presentation, but we're here to go over letters, answer any questions.
Yeah, Mr. McAndrews, can you just, I think most efficiently, take a look at Taylor's letter, September 30, 2023. And there's general comments B 1 through 11. Maybe run through those one by one, and that's the easiest way to cover those things, I think.
I think B1, Joanne covered the existing use,
I agree.
and that everything was going to stay essentially the same. She covered number 2, which is adequacy of parking.
And Pat, just to circle back on that, so the front building is 10 clients,
Yes,
predominantly senior clients, and then the rear building is 29 now, but up to 39.
Yeah. correct,
And then plus a handful.
yeah. And I think she testified that the parking worked for that because it was basically drop-off, pickup. 3, we're agreeable to one-way traffic, and we'll revise the plan to show that with the necessary markings and striping. 4, Scott suggested curb island areas. We're agreeable to that, and we'll revise the plan to show that. My understanding of trash pickup number 6 is that it occurs during the day, so those hours of 7 to 7 are fine.
Right, 5 you skipped, but there's a drawing from an architect of the proposed pavilion and the portico, correct?
Yes, and I
A1.
think the colors were supposed to pretty much match the front building and be basically earth tone colors.
So colors will match and construction in accordance with the plans.
Yes, yes.
Did those plans get marked?
No, they're just part of the application.
Oh, they're attached to the application?
They were submitted with it, though.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, fine. Guess we're on 6 or maybe 7.
Yeah, 6, we agreed to the hours. 7, we have a dumpster that gets emptied once a week for the main building, and then the front building, the township picks up once a week, I assume. Joanne testified about number 8, existing lighting being adequate and no problems. Number 9, the issue about trees. As far as we know, we're not disturbing any trees or taking any trees out for this proposal.
If
So-
it turns out that that should happen during construction, is there an agreement to replace with appropriate caliper trees?
We could replace, or we could probably tweak the plans a few feet to make it work. As far as we know, there's no trees being impacted.
And that sort of ties in, if I can,
To 10?
to number, 11, well, 10 a little bit, but also 11. From looking at the aerial, it's kind of hard to read, but it looks like some minor shifting, or maybe a tree kind of near the corner of that pavilion bill. And it looks like your grades are fine, that you can shift the pavilion a few feet if need be.
There's no trees near this pavilion.
Sir, can you just come up, because we have to record your comments.
Yeah. Where the pavilion is proposed now, there's got to be 30, 40 feet from the closest tree, and we're not going to get anywhere near a tree constructing this.
Well, I think it might make some sense to at least put a note on that if it is close, because the pool was here, and the aerial, the tree is sort of shown over the pool, but the pavilion actually looks like it's rotated and is a little further back. So I think as long as you either shift the pavilion or try to protect the tree,
Yeah.
it can't be put another tree
Yeah,
in.
we could do that, but I guarantee you, when Bill came out to set this on his drawing, we set the 4 corners with cones,
All right.
and then had
And they surveyed
the
that
folks,
location.
the folks came out and We tweaked it a little bit just to turn it. However, those cones stayed far away from the tree. That was the first day you and Kyle came out.
Right, right.
And we set the cones. There are no trees near those cones.
I can clarify.
Thank you.
the Plans and the revised plans, Scott.
Yeah, we'll just do a note. That sort of ties into 9 and 11, I guess. If you don't have to remove it, there's no replacement necessary.
Yeah, I think number 10, no landscaping is proposed. The site is pretty well screened along the perimeter. I do have a picture that shows like the pool location, which, Bill, you've seen this picture, you can identify that?
Yes, that's looking about for where the pavilion will be, more or less, looking back towards Deacon Road, I believe.
Okay, and this shows a pretty well-screened perimeter
Yes.
in terms of neighbors around us.
Right, yes.
Why don't I mark this A1?
What's the plan? Is that A1?
In the plan, I'll mark A2. Okay.
For the board, we put the comment in for some testimony about landscaping and use of buffers in case the board members had any knowledge of the site or if there was any public concerns where there was anything necessary, but no specific concerns on our part otherwise.
I think that's pretty much the Taylor Design Group letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the ones we have in the packet.
Yeah, it's the backside.
Tish, you had the pictures already, but this is the pretty color ones.
And then, you want to go over the engineering letter, or do you want us to?
They don't have that letter. What I did was since this plan doesn't have, they have less than 5,000 square feet of new disturbance, there's, the only issues have to do with the parking, and most of the parking now is all existing. Some of it is non-conforming. So the board just has to be aware if they approve this application that there are a number of non-conforming parking spaces. However, there are at least 3 or 4 handicap spaces that will need to be signed, but the board can't exempt them from signing the handicap parking areas.
We agreed to modify the plan to show those.
Pardon me?
We'll modify the plan to show those spaces and add the details for the signs.
Back there.
No problem.
And then, the other thing is that particularly along the back, there are all the parking spaces. Usually, the parking areas have to be curved. If there is no curb there, they're asking exemption for a curb. The board may want to consider wheel stops. I don't know if you need those, but that's what the ordinance provides for. The other thing is that, again, with Mr. Taylor's letter indicated that we should probably have some direction arrows to show the direction of the traffic, particularly in the area where we're going to be getting into the back portico.
Understood, yep.
Yeah, Mr. Miller, my client believes that the 11 spaces in the back, the existing ones have wheel stops, which aren't shown on the plan, and we'll agree to new wheel stops for the new parking spaces. So there will be wheel stops for all 11. So that's agreeable.
Bill, I think maybe to double check some of the widths of the existing accessible parking stall striping and those aisle widths. If they've been there for a while, in front of the, near the front building.
Here, I think.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that they're current in terms of their width and their markings for the barriers or something.
I can check that. If we have to adjust those, we can do that with restriping it.
Handle that with a note and a detail.
Yeah, sure, no problem. We can do that.
What, on that parking lot area, what are the foot markings that are back here? I see 11 feet, 5 feet, 8 feet, 18 feet. What, they don't seem to
Those
make
Dimensions
sense.
of the parking spaces.
What's that?
Dimensions of the parking spaces.
Just the width?
And the depth. 18 is the depth, and the width is 11 foot for the accessible space, 5 foot for the striped area next to the accessible space, and 8 foot for another accessible space next to that. And the rest of them are conventional spaces, 9 feet wide. Typical.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Counselor?
That's our direct testimony.
Okay. Professionals, any comments? Mrs. Newcomb?
Yes, I just have two questions. Is that this new accessory building, if you approve it, is this COA required on this structure? So I know.
So that would need to be determined by the township, not the board, so the applicant would just need to apply, or would need to comply with any.
Something to the tax assessor.
As applicable.
And then the only other question I have is that if in the future that they decide that they want to go solar on this structure, do they need to come back to the board, or is that permitted as long as it's not ground mounted? Because this is a pre-existing non-conforming use on a non-conforming structure. So I just want to get it and make sure that if they decide to do that, that they are permitted as long as it is not ground mounted.
Does our ordinance otherwise permit it on a roof in a permitted use?
Yes.
So then, if they would like the flexibility to be able to do that in the future, they should probably request to include potential future rooftop solar on the pavilion or the other structures.
Right, that's the reason why I'm asking, is so that it is on record, and that if in the future, years from now, and they decide they want to do this, they can go back to that and say, yes, they requested that.
That sounds like a good request.
Well, knowing as popular solar as anymore, yes.
Mr. Taylor, Mr. Miller, any other questions?
No, sir.
No? Okay, any questions from the board members before I open it for public comment? Hearing none, we're open for public comment. Does anyone want to step forward to the podium and have a comment about this application? Please raise your hand. And there's nobody on the phone, correct? Okay. Yes, ma'am. No, please come forward. You have to be sworn in at the podium. Mr. Kingsbury will swear you in, and just say your name.
Your name, please.
Barbara Ann Klein.
Barbara Ann, is that 2 words? One word? Barbara Ann. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth. Last name is Klein.
C-L-I-N.
Okay?
C-L-I-N.
Okay.
Now, ma'am, before you start, this comment, not question and answer period, and then address your comments here.
I just want to let the board know, I live beside and in front of this place, and there was actually a pavilion there before the pool. I mean, it was there before, and so unless there's like a lot of lighting or something different, you really have had that structure there in this township before.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment on this application? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment. Turn it back to the board. What's your pleasure on the application?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to grant the use variance that's been requested with the additional provision that the current configuration of the buildings will allow for potential future rooftop solar, and the resolution approves such a construction without the need to come back before this board for any additional approvals, although building approvals would still be required.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the motion? I do have one, but anybody else? Do we need to say something about the dumpster so that something doesn't come up 5 years from now that they've got a dumpster that was never approved? Pardon?
Ask that again, please.
Okay. I was trying to find out about the dumpster before when I asked Counselor and their witness, and I asked if it had been previously approved, and your comment, Counselor, was you don't think it was.
No, I don't think it was, but
Well, this is site plan approval, which includes the dumpster location as they have testified.
Okay, so we don't have to put anything in the motion specific. Okay, all right.
And I think your testimony was that it is located on a concrete pad and it is set back far from the street. So I guess the board should probably grant a design waiver for that trash enclosure to not be fully enclosed with an enclosure, with a fence or a wall.
So I'll amend my motion accordingly.
Second.
And you agree, okay. Any other questions on the motion? Counselor, you have any questions on it? Are you clear?
No,
Okay.
good, thank you.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. Paul Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you just stay for 1 second? Good luck with your project, okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay. I understand you want to continue the other application so that you don't have to stick around. Do you want to do that
Yeah,
now?
I'd like to go watch the game.
So would we.
Do you want to do that
I'll
now?
probably talk fast tonight.
You're not going to make him wait till third?
No.
But no, I think we're going to work on our plan, so if the board can carry number 3 to next month, that would be great.
Okay, what's the next month's meeting date? Is it the 5th,
November,
3rd, or 5th, something in there?
yeah,
2 days after Thursday.
no, we're on the 1st. November 1st,
November 1st?
yes.
Okay, we need a motion and a second to continue the other application, the Internet Automobile Car Dealership, 735 North Clinton Avenue. Continue it to November 1st.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Baggio?
Okay, second. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. Paul Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good night.
Take care. Thank you, Counselor.
No, postpone.
Lost my agenda. Thanks. Okay, next is case 1804C, Longbridge Farms. Counselor Douglas Heinel. How are you, sir?
Good evening, how are you?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and professionals, my name is Doug Heinold. I'm with the firm of Raymond Coleman Heinold in Morristown, New Jersey, representing the applicant Longbridge before you this evening. We were before you in the not-too-distant past to obtain preliminary site plan and preliminary subdivision approval. We are back tonight seeking final subdivision and final site plan approval. The project consists of 45 market rate attached townhouse lots within the Long Bridge redevelopment zone, 4 single-family detached residential lots, 2 open space lots, and 1 for future commercial use and related site improvements. The future commercial use you will see again once we have a proposal for that part of the project. We'll be back for a site plan application with respect to whatever is proposed on that. This portion of the property, as you're aware, is sort of in the middle or rear of the triangle, tucked in behind the residential lots that already face the street and eventually will be blocked from 38 largely by the commercial development when that occurs. I'd like to get our witnesses sworn in. Why don't we have, Drew, do you want to come up as well just to be sworn in? And I have with me Rick Clemson as our professional engineer and Drew Prasanda as representative of Long Bridge. And if you could just raise your right hands and be sworn.
Gentlemen, do you swear or affirm testimony you give tonight to be the truth, I do.
And Mr. Clemson was previously sworn and qualified before this board, but Mr. Clemson, could you just give your qualifications for the benefit of the board again?
Sure. I am a graduate of Penn State University. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering. I have been practicing engineering for closing in on 30 years. I'm the principal engineer with James Cesano Associates. I've been before 40, 50 land use boards in South Jersey over my career, and I haven't testified before this board before.
Thank you, Counselor.
Very good.
Acceptable.
Thank you. I'm going to basically just hand this over in a moment to Mr. Clemson to go through some of his review comments. Is essentially, as you know, preliminary is sort of, preliminary and final is a little bit of a misnomer. Preliminary is not the 50-yard line, it's the red zone, right? I mean, it gets you into the red zone, and we're just trying to get across the goal. I should be using baseball euphemisms instead of...
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I've got third base and less than 1 out. That's where we are tonight. So we are here to present some of the final comments and clarifications with respect to some of the details that needed to be worked out. I think what you'll hear is largely an ability of will comply. Where there are some open issues, we'll explain where those are, and much of that has to do with things like the post office and their control over where things go, PSE&G and what they have available to us. So, Rick, why don't you go through what you have prepared and address, and then if there's anything that I think we need to touch on as well, I'll jump in.
All right, sounds good. Good evening, everyone. I was here before presenting the preliminary subdivision application, so it's good to be back. I am going to bring up so I'm going to give an overview of the project, very similar to what I did in January. I'll try to be brief.
Rick, can you just mark those issues?
Sure, I can do that. So the first exhibit is an aerial photo exhibit showing the boundary of the property. I'm going to leave it at A1. And so the overall Long Bridge Farms tract consists of 3 properties, lots 1 and 8 of block 10301, which is down at the bottom of the plain, and the bulk of the site that you can see, this is all agricultural. And then the third property is block 4.05, block 113, which is all the way at the southern end of the property. The tract is approximately 22.8 acres, has frontage on New Jersey State Highway Route 38, Amesport Mount Laurel Road, and Gloucestertown Road. To the north of the site, we have a large residential subdivision known as the Glen at Masons Creek. To the east of the tract, the land uses are a mix of residential and commercial. We have a vacant car dealership immediately to our east. To the east and to the south, we have some single-family homes with frontage on Hinsborough Mount Laurel Road. To the south and east of the site, on the other side of Hinsborough Mount Laurel Road, we have another large subdivision known as the Hainesport Chase subdivision. And then to the west, we have some large lot, single-family homes that front on Fostertown Road. The tract, as it currently exists, consists of one single-family home, which is on lot 4.05, and then we also have agricultural and a little bit of wooded wetlands in basically the middle of the property. The vast majority of the property is agricultural. The tract is located within the Long Bridge redevelopment area. The redevelopment plan for Long Bridge was adopted on July 13th, 2021. When that redevelopment plan was created, we created two zoning districts. One is the Long Bridge redevelopment area townhouse zoning district, which I'm just going to, it's not the greatest term, but I'm just going to refer to it as LRAD, just because it's easier. And that is essentially this whole, it's the easterly portion of the tract. So a couple hundred feet back off of 38 down towards Hainesport, Mount Laurel Road. The Long Bridge redevelopment area, highway commercial area, zoning district, I'll say LRAC, if you will, is the bulk of the agricultural area to the west. And then we also have a portion of the property, so essentially the land that fronts on Hainesport, Mount Laurel Road, which will remain in the R1 district. The townhouse area complies with the LRAD zoning standards that were established. The single-family homes along Hainesport Mount Laurel Road, of which we have 4. I'm going to pause for 1 second, and I'm going to remove the aerial, and I'm going to put up a color rendering, and I'm going to call this one A2. I think this will be helpful as I start to describe some of what we're doing. You can actually see it as opposed to just the aerial photo. All right, so the R1 lots were these single-family home lots here. We have 1, 2, 3 proposed single-family homes and 1 existing single-family home to remain. Within the LRAD zone, so the townhouse zone, we have 45 proposed townhouses configured along 2 public streets. When we received preliminary approval, we were granted 2 design waivers. One design waiver related to the setback of the second single-family home in from the right along the northerly side of Foxwood Drive. So we were granted a design waiver to allow for that building to be set back 65.6 feet from the ultimate right-of-way on the Hainesport Mount Laurel Road, where 75 feet was a recommendation. So that design waiver was granted. It accomplished a couple of things. It better distributed the yard areas around that particular lot. It still puts the house about 95 feet from the curb line that we're going to be constructing. along Hainsport Mount Laurel Road, and quite frankly, it is further back than many of the other homes along Hainsport Mount Laurel Road. So that was the rationale for why the design waiver was granted. The other design waiver that was granted was a buffer along Hainsport Mount Laurel Road, and that was so that we did not wind up with a essentially a screen that completely blocked view of the residents. We wanted to have a softer presentation of these homes. Okay, so.
And just to be clear, those were granted a preliminary, we're not proposing any changes relative to those, right?
Correct, no changes. I'm just describing what we had approved. I'll just go back over it. So we have 4 single-family homes, one of which is existing, 3 are proposed, 45 fee simple townhouses within the LRAD zone. The townhouse lots will be 2,200 square feet or larger, 20 foot wide, a minimum of 110 feet deep, and will conform to the LRAD bulk standards. We have 2 public streets proposed. We have Foxwood Drive, which connects to Hainsport Mount Laurel Road, immediately opposite Easton Way. And then we also have Friendship Court, which ends in a cul-de-sac, which connects to Foxwood Drive. Both of these roads would be classified and consistent with a residential neighborhood street as determined or classified by the residential site improvement standards. The roads will be curved, will have sidewalk on both sides, and have been designed in accordance with RSIS. Trash and recycling will be curbside pickup. The roadway, we are proposing roadway improvements along Hainsport Mount Laurel Road. Our subdivision plan has been approved by Burlington County. We are going to widen our side of the county road to provide a 20-foot cartway from center line with curb and with sidewalk. We're also granting the county additional right-of-way, 17 feet of right-of-way, which would get them from 33 feet from center line to 50 feet from center line. So we are granting them land in addition to providing the improvements. We have 2 single-family homes. The existing home, which sat on lot 4.05, and the single-family home immediately to the one to the north of Foxwood. They have driveway access onto the internal street. The single-family homes to the far north and south of the frontage will have access to the county road, and they were approved as such by the county.
Rick, just very briefly, the dedication with Burlington County, that hasn't changed from preliminary, correct?
Has not changed. Has not changed. So all the proposed townhouses will have driveway access to either Foxwood Drive or Friendship Court. Every townhouse will have a single wide, 10-foot wide driveway and a garage. And no changes to the roadways or the lot configuration since preliminary, other than shifting of some driveways. So we might have had a left-hand driveway, but now we have a right-hand driveway. That would be the extent of the changes. Otherwise, what you're seeing here, the number of units, the placement of the units, it's further preliminary approval. I am going to move on to landscaping, try to give everybody a sense of what we're doing. Okay, so landscaping has been proposed throughout the project. We have street trees that are beyond the limits of the right-of-way along Foxwood and Friendship, and they are 40-foot intervals. We have dense buffering along the south and west side of the townhouse development. We also have dense buffering that separates the proposed single-family lots from the townhouse area. And we also have buffering from the property to the east, which is the old car dealership, which is vacant. Scott, I'm going to get into this in a second. So as it stands right now, we're currently proposing 96 shade trees, 46 ornamental deciduous trees, 250 evergreens, and 353 shrubs. In addition to that, so not part of that count, we also have numerous grasses and shrubs and other types of plants within our bioretention basins, so part of our stormwater management system. So at preliminary, we had done a tree survey. That tree survey identified 106 trees with a diameter of 8 inches or greater. 88 of those trees need to be removed as a result of the grading and construction activities. So as a result, 88 trees with a caliber of 3 inches or greater need to be provided in addition to those that are specifically required to address the street tree and buffers requirements. So, as currently designed, 30 of the 96 deciduous shade trees that we're proposing are not specifically required by code. So they were in addition to what we needed to do. So those 30 trees count towards our replacement requirement, which leaves us with a deficit of 58 deciduous shade trees. So as a result of a virtual meeting that we had with the board's planner, we decided to provide those 58 trees within this area here. So if you see this dense area of green circles, this is an area between one of our bioretention basins and this wooded wetland area. We are going to install the 58 trees in order to bring us into compliance with the tree removal and compensation ordinance.
And that's comment F2 of our report, if anybody cares. That's over there.
If anybody is.
Thanks. The last topic.
I followed it all.
You followed?
I think I got all the numbers right, yeah.
All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about, other than discussion related to the professional letters, is lighting. Because this was definitely a big issue that Scott and I had to work through. So the redevelopment plan calls for full cutoff or dark sky compliant light fixtures. And in essence, what that basically means is a fixture that directs all the light down and does not have light beyond a certain percentage directing upward, which would create, we'll call it light pollution. Okay? So that was one of the requirements of the redevelopment plan. The other requirement of the redevelopment plan related to the color temperature that is generated by a light fixture. So, just in terms of what you would see in a house, so you would have maybe an older soft white light bulb that you would put in your lamp that would have like a yellowish tone to it, a very muted tone. That's probably, you can correct me, Scott, but it's probably somewhere in the 2,500, 2,000 Kelvin, we'll call it. And some of the newer LED light bulbs that you can purchase at Home Depot, they refer to them as daylight, which generates a super high white color. That would be a 5,000 Kelvin, very white color, as opposed to the yellowish color that you would get from your soft white light bulb, or if you look out in the parking lot, those look to be high pressure sodium lights, so you can see they have a yellowish tone. That would be in that 2,500 Kelvin range, somewhere around there. So we have public streets here, and the lighting that we're proposing would be through what's called the least lighting program through PSE&G. So those are lights that would be maintained by PSE&G after the developer installs them. And there is a cost associated with a public street light. So pretty much you go drive any public street within Amesbury, those street lights that you see are part of the lease lighting program. The township pays some fee per light fixture to PSE&G to maintain those lights. The developer pays to actually have the lights put in. So why do I talk about this? So within PSE&G, who controls this program, there are limited fixtures and color generating light fixtures that are available to us. Okay, so in order to do a full cutoff or dark sky compliant fixture, the only fixture that they have within their program is generally referred to as a Copperhead light fixture. Now, it would be an LED fixture, so very green, very energy friendly. It's pretty much what you would see driving down any of the local streets. It's basically on an arm, and then the luminaire is pointing down. So we can get a dark sky full cutoff fixture, but it would be that particular fixture in order to do that. The other issue we ran into with PSE&G.
And then that fixture is 4,000 degrees Kelvin?
Yeah, it's just going there. That's okay. The other issue we ran into with PSE&G is, and I think this is partially because they don't want to have a ridiculous amount of inventory. They want interchangeability because they're providing lights to tens, if not hundreds of towns in New Jersey. So the only color that is part of the lease lighting program is 4,000. So we tried to argue with them, but we were unsuccessful. So to the extent that we can only get that 4,000 Kelvin light, and to the extent that any relief is necessary in order to do this, we would respectfully ask for that tonight. But we were able to address the full cutoff issue. And that does it for my testimony.
Refresh my recollection on the townhouses. Is there, I don't know whether there's an HOA agreement or not, but can you tell me if there is and how that controls subsequent modifications allowed or not allowed by the individual townhouse owners?
Yeah, so Drew, do you want to come up for a minute real quick? To address the question that was put forth, the applicant proposes an HOA, correct?
Correct.
And that will be all set forth in documents that will be submitted to the township professionals, including the township attorney, for final review and approval. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, I think the issue presented is, can you get into a little bit about some of the restrictions? Mr. Taylor's letter of August 25th noted a desire to understand better what limitations residents will have with respect to their backyards. I know there's an effort being made to maintain a clean look to those backyards and some uniformity. So can you just go over what's proposed and what the limitations will be?
Sure. Okay, so as far as limitations, the folks are going to be limited to really nothing in their backyards. No sheds, no spas, not anything of that nature.
Gardens?
Gardens,
Want to grow,
see that.
somebody wants to grow tomatoes.
Fences?
No fences.
No fences. We had not addressed the issue of gardens or whether somebody wants to do plantings, but if the township has a concern, we'll address that, but it has not been raised previously. I don't know if there's a concern with that. Mr. Taylor, do you have a concern with gardens?
A lot of times for the major developers, we see planting limitations that homeowners can plant certain things that get no taller than 36 inches or 42. that may, if the board has a concern, a lot of times, like the
Yeah.
HOA docs, most of these homeowners wouldn't have the ability to put a row of arborvitae across the back of their lot area. Similarly, there can be restrictions.
Yeah, I don't think the intent is to allow additional substantial plantings. If the governing body, or if the board has any issue or concern with how gardens may look, we can limit that with some reasonable restrictions along the lines that you're talking about. We'd be amenable to that.
And some square footage limitations.
Will the townhouses have patios in?
I'm just going to ask that question. Patios or decks?
Patios and decks will be all standardized, so the only option would be to put a 10 by 14 deck would be the only deck allowed, and the same size patio underneath.
And that's.
Based upon the prior testimony,
Right. I have a
excuse me,
question.
go ahead.
Okay, at the preliminary, I thought I recalled a discussion about making the residential HOA responsible for maintaining the retention pond or whatever in the commercial area. Is that still part of the?
Yes, yes.
I have to say I object to that. I really think that's putting an unfair burden on the residential homeowners to have to keep up with the commercial property.
Shared obligation, right, ultimately.
Correct.
Yeah, so I understand the concern, but I want to clarify that that basin serves some of the stormwater needs of the townhouse development, and they are only responsible for it as a shared percentage for whatever happens on the commercial lot. So when the commercial development is built and the commercial developer is contributing to that basin, they will also be paying a pro rata share for that basin
But
maintenance.
if there's any problem with it's going to be the HOA's the residential HOA's responsibility to go after the commercial businesses that are violating it.
Well, they're going to be part of a joint agreement, and HOA documents are enforceable. If somebody doesn't comply with their obligations under them, they can have substantial penalties. There's severe consequences to that.
But there was severe financial cost with pursuing those. That burden will fall on the homeowners to have to carry the legal costs or whatever they need to go after those commercial clients that aren't complying. I think that's an unfair responsibility for the homeowners, but that's just my opinion.
I understand the concern. I do think that it'll be absolutely covered by the legal documents, and they will have the ability to recover those costs if somebody is not participating.
Have you ever lived in an HOA?
I've been involved with HOAs. I've been involved with HOA litigation, yes.
Easier said than done. It places a lot of financial hardship on until they can get to a successful conclusion. But that's just my thoughts.
Yes, anytime is the same as if some resident doesn't pay for their fair share. It's borne by the other residents until they can recover it.
That's true, but they're all
Yes.
homeowners.
Yep, I agree.
Now you're throwing in commercial businesses that have a totally different,
Understood.
While you're on the subject of the basin, since that was tucked into the last topic, my recollection is from preliminary that the basin was going to be designed to be A, dry, and B, somewhat self-maintaining in terms of how it was going to be planted. Can you either confirm that or modify that?
I can talk about that. And yes, so all of the basins that we're proposing here, which by the way are dictated to us by state standards that have gone through several rounds of modifications over the last few years. So those design parameters are dictated to us. So these facilities that we're proposing are compliant with what I'll refer to as the New Jersey Marine Stormwater Infrastructure Standards. They are all designed as bioretention basins, which is a very environmentally friendly type of design. The basins will be dry. They are not wet ponds. They are dry basins. They are planted.
Except perhaps after a heavy storm.
Right, sure, absolutely. There's a certain drawdown time, after a storm would take place, correct. But they are dry and they are planted.
Right, so these basins, unlike the basin you might be familiar with at the entrance to Hainesport Chase, they're not going to be mowable. No,
Correct.
Hainesport Chase Basin is a big bowl of grass.
Yes, it's not like that at all. This is, if you want to think of it as a meadow, this is probably, do you have a better way to describe it?
And I will say those mowed basins we're getting away from that under the new stormwater rules.
Right, I just want to confirm that my recollection of it is correct.
Correct.
And in addition to the big one, are there a couple of small ones over by the wetlands?
So yeah, we have a couple of smaller ones in here. They're very linear in nature. And then the main basin is over here. And that basin is designed such that 67% of that basin is servicing the residential area. 33% is reserved for commercial.
Right, and all the basins have the same environmentally friendly design?
Correct.
Are they all linked so that water flows from one to the next to the next?
There are linkages between, not every basin is directly linked to another one, but they are linked together, and we refer to that as a treatment train.
And then, is there an outfall, an ultimate outfall?
Yes. So the ultimate outfall is up in the northeasterly corner. It'll be in this area here, which then drains into a stormwater ditch, and then it enters the Route 38 system, and then goes down to Mason's Creek.
And you have landscaping indicated around the major basin, and what is that to consist of?
So the landscaping around the perimeter, particularly this area here, is really a buffer from 38, just to screen, just add some screening to that facility. It's not the vegetation, there's real dark green vegetation that you see along the extreme perimeter. That's really more for buffering and aesthetics. The vegetation that's doing all the work is inside.
No, I understand. I completely understand.
Okay.
Is that a
Could be shrubs.
stormwater basin about the cul-de-sac?
There's
Right
a
there.
small facility here,
This.
and here. Yeah. That's the way it's required.
Yeah, I guess my question is, and I don't even know whether it's needed, but is there any plan to include any fencing, any signage, anything at all that would tell the general public that basin is not a open space for the public to use? Or is it deemed to be open space for the public to use?
I would say it's not really deemed as public open space. No, I would not classify it as that. In terms of whether there's any signage proposed right now, no. Nor is there fencing. However, I mean, we could potentially put,
I've seen.
Put a couple of signs, basically say, do not mow or something like that, just so that we don't have a mistake.
I'm not suggesting that signs or fencing is appropriate. I'm asking.
No, not, it should be pretty obvious to the folks who are going to be doing the maintenance that it's not something that you're going to mow down. I would be hard pressed to see someone, stupid stuff happens, but it would really be stupid to, let's just say, take this meadow and mow it down. And by the way, the HOA is going to have an extremely detailed maintenance manual, which is also a state requirement. So that maintenance manual will be given to the folks who are going to be doing maintenance on behalf of the HOA so that they understand how these systems work. And that, I think, is our primary control over stupid.
Right, well, I don't expect the highway authority, state highway authority mowing crews to come in and mow that. But
No, they wouldn't be. There's 38 out here. There's a defined area between the highway and where we are. I don't think that's something.
Private property.
Private property. We're well beyond.
DOT doesn't normally go beyond their right.
I'm sure they're not going a foot beyond their
They're not looking to
defined
spend
right
any
of
more
way.
money on maintenance. We're 50 feet or so away from the right of way. I think it's highly unlikely that anybody from DOT would be attempting to do maintenance in something like this.
Yeah.
One of the
I guess-
things we've done on some other projects, more often than not, we find it's the HOA, and there's one or two people that think that should all be mowed. And,
Oh, well, sure, that's
and
another.
then they get themselves on the HOA board. What we've done on some other projects to change some of that perception is every 150 feet or so, some very small signs that just says meadow habitat gets put in there, and then a lot of developers like it from a marketing standpoint, because then instead of people going, why aren't they mowing that? People go, well, look, they've created songbird habitat in my backyard. That also sort of establishes that line long-term for the landscapers and future HOAs, so maybe.
Well, I like that suggestion. I couldn't figure it out, but I knew something needed to be done there, but that's a good
That
idea.
helps delineate, and it also helps change the perception and correct the marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd suggest that.
I think we're thinking the same project, Scott, but I think that's a great idea.
So because it ultimately discharges into the state's road, do you have to have approval from the state for this?
We do not.
Okay.
I have a question about that same area that you're talking about, and I have a recollection, and maybe somebody else can help me with this. In some of our prior presentations, it was talked about a road easement through there to the next property if it was developed, because the county wouldn't allow enough curb cuts. Is this, my question is that infringing on that potential? It was just something discussed a while ago.
We purposely pulled the basin back away from the right of way to provide for linkage if it were to happen. So we purposely left room there that if we needed to put a driveway through there, we could.
But you testified that there's going to be a water drainage basin.
Well, the basin stops here. And then there is a stormwater feature that runs along, I believe that's lot 2, which is the car dealership. So it's very simple, but essentially, if there's going to be a driveway linkage between these properties, they would simply have to put a pipe in that drainage facility and then build a driveway over top of it.
Okay.
Fairly simple.
I mean, it wasn't, no, Mr., excuse me, Rivicchio, do you remember what I'm talking about? Wasn't it linking your commercial property to the?
It's written in as a requirement of the redevelopment plan that any commercial development on that site shall provide connectivity to the adjacent sites to the east.
So I'm not losing it then.
Well, that's a different story. But no, yeah, so you're absolutely right. So that will be
Okay.
a requirement when they come in for any commercial development.
Thank you.
Did you say, Scott, linking the commercial property to the tree?
Linking, so there's no commercial, there's no linkage between the residential and the commercial. But what the town wanted when we were looking at this globally, realizing that synergies between two commercial sites that would then stop some unnecessary trips on both of the side streets and on 38, that if somebody was coming up Town and they wanted to go to the old Volkswagen site, whatever gets developed there, they could come through this highway commercial site. And similarly, in the other direction, coming out of Hainesport, Mount Laurel, cutting through that site to have, so people don't have to go out to 38 to make intersections every time. So we anticipate that would occur and would actually benefit both projects.
Single point of access is terrible.
I actually wanted to finish up my discussion because the signage issue that has been proposed for the basin, the Route 38 basin, is good, as we've talked about. But there's also the issue of trespassers on the wetlands area, that tongue of green and darker green that you have on the diagram. How do you propose to police that? Maybe police is the wrong word, but how do you propose to control access to that? And do you propose any pathways in there for the residents to use who live at the townhouse or for town residents in general to use?
We are not proposing pathways through that area. So it would be kind of hard to get back into that area. So no, we're not proposing any public access, to this wetland area.
Does that area actually exist in a wet state for parts of the year?
Sometimes, yeah. It gets wet, dries out, gets wet, dries out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it not drain into Mason's Creek?
Yeah, so
Or
if
is it property
it fills up enough, it will run through a ditch that heads down to Fostertown Road, goes underneath Fostertown Road, goes through another ditch, and then ultimately gets to Mason's Creek.
That ditch is the one that's near the kidney center? Along Fostertown Road
Kidney
there?
Center's on the other side of 38 though,
Yeah.
right?
Right, it goes
so-
across 38? Or under 38?
Hold on a second, let me see if I have anything. I don't think I have anything that goes that far, but essentially what happens is when this overflows, which it's going to be up, it's going to be down. But anyway, there's a drainage feature that runs through here, goes underneath Fostertown, goes in between these two properties here, and then hits Mason's Creek. Mason's Creek then goes under 38 and then wraps back around this way. And it actually goes behind.
Glen Mason's Creek.
Glen. It goes, right, so it kind of makes it almost flooded.
No.
All right, so this wooded area, who's the ultimate owner of that wooded area?
So that is, whoops, I believe that is actually part of the townhouse area. That is part of the townhouse area.
The wetland area?
Most of it. So this line here is essentially, a boundary line. So with the exception of this top piece here, this area here is within the land mass that's controlled by the townhouse area, so the HOA.
Okay.
That's actually subdivided and created as an HOA open space lot, correct?
Correct. And it is an open space lot, yes. Yep.
Open space, but not recreational space?
Correct.
Okay. This is just to make sure we know who controls that, who's ultimately responsible for that property,
Boy, I wouldn't
and who's
want to be
paying
on
taxes for
HOA.
that property.
Let me tell you,
Okay.
I don't want to be on that.
And the HOA would be responsible for maintaining that property too?
Well, there's really not much in the way of maintenance. I mean, they're going to have insurance, coverage, but there's really, this is meant to be in a natural state. It's not
Boy,
intended
their
to be
dues are going to be,
to be doing anything in there.
It's not manicured.
What's that?
It's not manicured.
No, it's not, right, it's not meant to be that.
Yeah. And you're just gonna, and what you're gonna add to it by way of the additional 50-something trees, it's gonna be a look-alike addition.
Correct, correct, yes. So we're basically, essentially, we're gonna be expanding this area from the really dark green into this. So yes, we'll be expanded pretty substantially.
Okay, I just said, if some kid decides to go in there and build a tree fort someday, at least the HOA can say, stop, take it down. Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Crisanda was starting to talk a little bit about the patio and some of those other restrictions, and then we went to gardens and then basins.
Yeah, decks and patios.
Can I ask for just clarification on a couple of things? So there's no sheds, pools, hot tubs or spas, no addition, no rear yard fences.
Correct.
The only fences are the side privacy fences.
Yep, yeah, in between the interior units, just to create a little privacy.
And then, so the max patio size at ground level is 10 by 14?
Correct.
And those are included with, so every unit will have a patio, correct?
No, not necessarily. They would have like a little landing outside the door. If they choose to purchase that, they could through the builder, but they will not be allowed, it will not be part of the base house, it will not be included.
Okay,
On
so-
all the properties.
So all the patios are optional?
Correct. Now, that being said, it may be an incentive at some point that goes through the whole life of the job, that remains to be seen. And possibly the decks, they may be included, I can't testify to that.
So I have-
But we have them
But you
standardized.
have to do with patio, I know when they do these kinds of patios, they are, someone's gonna ask to enclose that, to make a sunroom.
Not allowed.
Not possible.
Not possible.
And I guess the follow-up to that is if somebody buys one without the deck and then decides, gee, the deck would have been a
They
good
can
idea.
only put on,
They got a design they've got to follow.
that's correct.
Per
And that
the
will be
HOA
provided on
requirements.
the plan, so there will be
Right.
on the plans,
Yep.
decks.
Standardized.
I want to ask a question, because over the years, we've heard so much of this. I didn't know that, I didn't know this. I mean, is that going to be in their deeds? Is there going to be separate contracts that they need to sign? I mean, we've heard it all.
They don't read them.
Oh, man, I couldn't put a
Well,
pool or a
one of the things that I think is important is it's not just a township issue and a variance issue, it's an HOA regulation. So really, until the HOA says, yes, you can do this, it shouldn't become a township issue, and it should be something that's caught at the HOA level. The HOA has an interest in maintaining uniformity of decks and of patios, of not allowing enclosures and illegal structures in the backyard, illegal fences and things of that nature. So it will be covered in the HOA documents, it will be disclosed as part of the sale process.
So
And,
would that be appropriate for the township to have a copy of that?
oh, it will be on file with the township as well. Yeah.
Just to let you know also how it works in our office is that anything that has, I have a list of all the developments in town that have what I call active HOAs. We do have HOAs in some of the areas that don't really care what you do in the census, doesn't define you can't have a shed, you can't have. So this will go on to our list of requirements. And one of the things is that we remind the homeowners that you're not getting anything until the HOA states that. So one of the couple questions while we're on there, is this HO management, is this an off-site? Is it through the owners? What type of HOA are we going to be dealing with?
So as the developers, we'll manage the HOA until there's I forget the number of, there's a percentage of owners. Once that you hit that percentage, you notify them, then they can come in and then they will manage the HOA and make decisions for their community.
So that'll be.
And likely hire,
That'll be
hire.
an important person that we, especially in the construction zoning office, that's going to be, we're going to have to know that.
Sure.
In order to deal with that. Secondly, are we talking about low-grade decks that are less than 30 inches and less, no anything up high, no second-story deck, because I think that really needs to be defined.
Yeah, they will only be off the first floor, so nothing low. That would be a patio at grade. And then a deck would be at what we call the first floor, because there's a lower level, first floor, second floor. It'll only come off the first floor, which is roughly 9 feet off.
How about pavers? Are they allowed to have paver patios and front walkways?
No, they can't modify the front in any way.
And so there's no expansion then, there'll be in that HOA document that there's no expansion of a driveway or a curb cut?
That is correct.
Good points.
The one issue you may want to consider for the rear patios, just from a lot of these we've seen over the years, you may want to allow flexibility that it will either be a concrete, or you can call out 4 pavers, and then whatever the owner wants to do, because we do see a lot of requests in other towns kind of after the fact. But it may be something they want to consider.
Understood, yeah.
Can I ask a couple of questions? When you were talking about the backyard, you had said something about there's no fencing, or they're allowed to have privacy fences between?
There will be only privacy fencing in between to allow for privacy when people are sitting on their back patios. Nobody can obtain additional fencing in their backyard, so you won't see, one lot fenced and then the next lot fenced. It's intended to remain open and clean looking.
I'm just curious, why can they not have one in the back? If they want to have a dog or something, then they have to always go out with their dog.
HOA is going to cut the lawns, so, they're going to, somebody that decides to live there is going to say,
Yeah, we
I'd
have
rather
that.
have somebody else
That's
cut
what we
my
have.
lawn, and I'll sacrifice
Yeah.
it.
They have to keep their dog,
They'll move to.
our HOA says their dog has to be on leash at all
Or
times.
they can get an electric fence,
Yep.
I guess.
I was just going to ask that. So you could put an invisible fence in your lot.
Yeah, I don't think that would frustrate the purposes.
We don't allow it at all.
We just want to create a uniform look. What you see where they don't have those regulations is a fence that's 20 years old, a fence that's 5 years old, no fence, and it just becomes very.
Total hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Okay,
One of the
and-
other items that, in one of my other towns that has been brought up a lot and has become somewhat argumentative in an HOA is these backyard fire pits. And the reason I say that is because they define them clearly as a wood one to be burned, and then one is a gas one, which they have to come to us. So it's something to consider as well, is that if you're still in that portion of designing this HOA documents, I highly recommend it because they've become extremely popular in regards to HOAs allowing certain sizes, whether they're gas, whether they're wood burning. It's just a suggestion.
Gotcha.
Well, it'd be a fire hazard if they were on the concrete deck.
Well, we had
Underneath.
the same issue with gas grills. Our HOA documents, the townhomes could not, the townhomes were not allowed to have gas grills. The single-family homes could, but not the townhomes, because of fire concerns. But then that got changed.
I also had another question, going back to the basin. The homeowners are responsible for maintaining the basins. That's correct, right?
The HOA.
The HOH. Okay, HOA. But then when there's commercial development, they will contribute to the HOA? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, there'll be another HOA, and the two HOAs will have an agreement.
So it's a commercial HOA?
That's correct. Yeah, there may be 3 or 4 tenants, let's call them, on the commercial property. And they will be grouped together by an HOA who is talking to the 45 plus the 3 single, to those people through an HOA.
Okay, so until the commercial HOA is established, it's the residential HOA that bears the brunt of the basin?
That's true. The only thing I would say is under the new stormwater regulations, there's not a lot of immediate, Rick can probably speak to this better than I can, I know you can, but there's not going to be a lot of immediate maintenance associated with that once it's constructed. So I don't think that's going to be a bill that's going to be.
Well, it'll be trash that'll be blowing in off of 38 that will probably end up having to be cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, they would have general cleanup, and the HOA is going to be mowing lawns and things like that, so they would mow, you know, any turf areas around the perimeters, but the actual basic maintenance itself, it's really designed, these systems are designed to be natural. They're designed to take care of themselves. When we were talking about all the trees that we're providing, you know, between the basins and the wooded area, the ground cover in that area, we're actually, there's a suggestion of the board's plan, we're actually going to do a meadow-type mix that'll be growing at the same time that the trees are growing, and then that area might be mowed twice a year.
Yeah, but those were that goes back to why I saw a problem with that. Businesses are gonna come and go. They may or may not pay their proportionate share of whatever their contribution to this, you know. In the meantime, the HOA's trying to do their budget, and they're not getting income from these commercial groups, so now they've gotta go after these commercial groups. And I think it's gonna be a headache for the HOA, but.
It really would be no different than if this was all residential and you had the first phase of residential, say the first 15 lots going into the basin, those folks are paying. And then the next 20 lots come at some later point, and then they're going into the basin, and everybody's.
And I still think it's easier to going after individuals than it is businesses that may not care.
And whether it's one business owner or an HOA on that side, that's going to be a percentage of their obligation, and that group is going to have to come up with that percentage. So it may actually fall to the other business owners if one or two are not paying as opposed to the residents.
And I'll just say one other thing. And this configuration here is not unique. I've done many other projects that were mixed-use projects that had this same exact configuration where one entity might take the lead in terms of responsibility, but it's a shared financial responsibility. So I'll just say that I've done other jobs exactly like this, mixed-use jobs, where you have the commingling of commercial and residential stormwater, and it's handled exactly this way.
It's gonna just really depend upon who the managing agent, who the HOA will get as the managing agent, rather than, a lot of the HOAs are volunteer homeowners who are just doing it, but if they're gonna need professional management.
Have
Need
you
to see what goes.
considered having that biodegradable pond owned only by the commercial side? It's outside of the residential property lines. That would eliminate the homeowners having to worry about that thing at all.
The configuration here is consistent with what was approved during the redevelopment plan.
I understand that.
So we've honored that.
You come to us sometimes for variances. I'm talking about the variances. Have you all considered that?
We're not in a
You
position
own
to
this
read.
off of the homeowners association. They're going to have to on their hands without worrying about joint responsibility for that.
We had designed this, again, in accordance with the plan, that the obligations are not going to be solely on the homeowners association. They are going to be.
Until you sell that property and get people.
But again, I think what we're representing is we don't anticipate that to be a burden on the HOA based upon the testimony.
Well, having been the president of an HOA, I disagree with you.
So if there's not a commercial development built yet, how is nothing there contributing to the stormwater basin? Nothing's going to be built yet. So there's not going to be infrastructure there that's going to be contributing to the stormwater basin.
Correct. Nothing's going into.
So until the commercial development is built, the residential development is going to be contributing to the stormwater runoff into that basin
Solely, yes.
solely.
There already is existing water in that area when it rains a lot.
I won't live there.
I just had one more question, I'm sorry. So, in regards to the grass that is around the basin, who's responsible for cutting it?
So, go ahead, Rick.
The homeowners association.
Okay, I just want to make sure make sure that's included, because I know that there's, like, areas in the town where there's a basin and a homeowner is responsible for it or whatnot. And so I think it should be stated that it's the HOA that's responsible for cutting the grass.
They're going to cut all the grass. The homeowners are not going to be responsible for cutting
They don't
their
cut
own-
any of their grass.
any of their property, or
Mhm.
obviously anybody else's.
Okay,
And that was part of the reason that we decided no fencing.
Gotcha.
It gets very difficult with fences that mow the grass.
okay.
Can we switch gears to architectural design on the buildings? Because I know that was discussed, I'm sure you have, to tell us whether we talked about it very preliminarily when we did preliminary, and there were drawings, and I don't know whether there's been any changes to that or not.
No changes.
There have been no changes. Yeah, if
Okay.
you have questions with respect to that, but what was presented in preliminary has not changed in that regard.
You're still gonna have, is this the one where the homes will be like at different
Slightly
elevations,
offset.
like offsets?
Yeah, to prevent that sort of
stacking.
That's correct.
blank wall look.
Is it similar to what we see on 38? On the
No.
other side of Forest Town Road?
No, those are all the same color. There's 8 different color schemes
that's right.
in this.
Our last question, silly detail question, but what is your one street is called Fox what?
Foxwood?
Foxwood. Across the street, there's a Fox Court. I mean, is there any thought maybe to get away from the fox so people don't get confused?
What I will tell you, we presented the county 911 coordinator with the names, and that was one of the names that he approved.
Okay.
Normally, and it's one of the reasons that I think most of the counties have gone this direction, is that rather than having a municipality review street names and they're only looking inside their box, well, when the county 911 coordinator is looking at this, he's looking at a bigger box, right? So,
I know you got to get the name approved, but if the county approves it, then that's fine, but
I don't think we're married to it, but we went through the proper channels.
I'm not suggesting you go back and change it now, as long as it's approved.
It was, yeah.
It's interesting, I thought about that.
So in reviewing what we've gone through, we've sort of jumped around a little bit, but Scott, did you have any more open items? The one thing I did, there's a couple things in your report. 35-foot was called out as a potential to be determined. Rick, can you just verify that we're under the 35-foot height?
For the building, yes.
Yes.
Yes, it will be less than 35 feet, measured from the slab to the beam roof height, which is, I think, spelled out in the redevelopment plan.
With regard to,
Shown on updated architecture plans.
yes, we'll note that on the plans. With respect to development identification signage, that is to be determined, and we will,
Down, Doug, are you actually going for my letter?
I'm trying to.
So we did C1, I think. So C2, 3, and 4 are sort of informational. And
Will comply, yes, nothing changed.
Nothing else has changed. Preliminary under 5.
5, we've addressed with we're in compliance with the redevelopment plan. We're not asking for any additional waivers or variances that were not granted last time.
So the only waiver, I guess, the change would be, I think there are two choices as far as lighting goes. One is a decorative light that has some sideways glare to it, or it's a Cobra head light that is a down-type fixture. So those are, neither one fully complies with the requirements of the redevelopment plan, but is what PSE&G offers at this time. So I don't know if the board wants to, if the board has a preference for either one of those.
Cobra heads are similar to, that's what the Chase has, right?
Either one. I believe so, sort of a long arm.
Long arm,
Very simple, and just a very simple.
snake head fixture at the end of the arm.
Almost like the head of the Cobra.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
So I don't know if the board has a preference for either one.
I think for consistency purposes, I think the Cobra head would be palatable.
The Cobra.
Okay. So I think we covered 6. Number 7, all trash and recycling storage will be done inside for the townhouses.
Correct?
Is that written into the HOA?
It'll be a requirement of the HOA, and it will be internally stored, so people won't be having them externally stored.
Next to their front door, the blue recycled bin.
Are we finished with the lighting part? Because you had 2 points in here. On letter E as in Edward, lighting.
Well, we were kind of going from C1 down to C8, and then we kind of jumped back to lighting, and I think we,
Yeah, but how about this, your number 3, lighting? The lamp post adjacent to lot 1.20 appears to conflict with the hydrant location. Has that been cleared?
well, they're just going to have to revise the plans.
Okay.
And we'll comply with that. We'll resolve that with you.
Any phasing of the project
No phasing.
for the townhouse?
Correct. It's all one townhouse project. It will not be broken up into phases.
And all the roads will be constructed with that. Is there any phasing of the single families, or are all of those improvements going to be done at once? Yes. Okay. 9, any developments 9?
Are the streets publicly maintained, or are they going to be private? Foxwood and Friendship?
They'll be constructed to standards acceptable to the municipality and then dedicated.
Okay.
So the township plows snow?
Upon conveyance, yeah. So once it gets dedicated, that doesn't happen immediately following construction, but once we get the performance bonds released, then it transitions over to township maintenance. Signage, we're going to comply with the requirements of the ordinance, and that will be submitted for a sign permit at the time.
I think a majority of the remainder.
Yeah, I think if
I
we,
think 14 is the one where you'll consider that subject to the postmaster review.
so there has,
approval. So we're gonna move the cluster box to this area adjacent to the very first parking space within Friendship Court. So we're moving it from the north side of Friendship Court to the south side, and the postmaster has agreed.
And I think the balance of the items under C are relatively minor, and will comply with those.
right. I agree. We did represent to you during our pre-meeting discussions the color schemes on 18 retaining walls to ensure that they are earth-toned and not poor selections. Warm earth tones, yes.
No pink, purple?
Counselor, what was the final decision regarding mailbox locations? I think there were 2 that you were talking about.
Can you show that again, Rick?
Sure. So, they'll actually be 3 units side by side Each unit has a total of 16 mailboxes, and they're going to go right here, which is on the south side of Friendship, a little bit to the east of the intersection with Foxwood. So right here. Where
For everybody in the whole complex?
Everybody, correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the post office does not like moving them around because then they have to make too many stops. So that, some of that's a little bit out of our control.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Your EV chargers, is the HOA allowing them outside of the house, or are they mandating that they are inside the garage? Something seriously need to think about.
Only inside the garage, they would not be outside.
Okay, and the reason I say that is that really needs to be emphasized to these owners, that they are not permitted outside. That's a huge one right now.
Well, I misheard, didn't hear. What were you talking about?
This is regarding EV chargers on the private town.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Whether they're,
Mhm.
on the outside, or they're mandating them on the inside.
Inside is the answer, right? Okay, thank you.
Why is that?
I'm sorry?
Why?
Well, and again, in my other situation is that we have homeowners who, I hate to say the word, tell a tale to the HOAs that they were doing them on the inside, and then they get to us and they tell us that they were permitted to do it outside, and many of them are already doing it without permits, electrical permits.
Mhm.
And it becomes a argument between the HOA and the town, is how did you allow them to do this? Well, they never even got a permit yet. So finding these EV chargers literally they're coming all over, is that the disclosure to these residents really needs to be defined of inside or outside. And I don't know what their HOA documents state, but just experience from several of the HOAs.
Are you talking about the electrical apparatus being inside and flow
Yes.
coming out into the car that's sitting in the driveway?
Well, that's an HOA issue, but I'm talking about the actual charger
Yeah.
inside the garage,
Well-
whether it's a Beamer or a Tesla.
We're
As opposed
proposing-
to a post next to the driveway with a charging head unit.
Right, or on the wall.
Compared
Right.
to the inside, right?
Right, so the unit itself will be inside the garage, and if a person is sitting in their driveway, they'll be able to still, if the cord reaches, right, yeah. But the important thing is that we're putting the actual unit itself inside the garage.
I would just recommend before you do that, though, we're an electrical contractor, so we install these all the time now. I would just recommend that you investigate the safety issues with that. So,
A lot of people are using the outside EV chargers because of fire hazards.
yes.
You're seeing a lot of pedestals go in, is that what you're saying, instead of putting them inside the garage?
Yes.
My husband is seeing, it's my husband that does the work then, but we are seeing that they're catching fire.
But one of the issues is that the HOAs also have consistency of their, again, I can only have a plant that's 16 inches high. I don't want, and I'll give you another example of these mini split units. People putting them on the outside of that, they have to be. So the HOAs really are trying to make consistency in appearance. So you have one guy that's got 2 chargers on each side of his garage. Do they want that on the outside?
Right, I understand that, but on the same token, if you have a fire, now you're going to have consistency
But
because
if
you're
it
going to have
catches on
4
fire, it's gonna be
sections that are
either
going to be
outside or
burned.
inside. It's not gonna make a
So-
difference of a-
So is the board okay with the condition that they could be outside if the developer?
Doesn't matter to me, it's
Well, that,
up to them.
yeah, that's what I'm
It's up to the
asking. So
HOA, I mean, whatever.
I mean, I don't care what you do, I'm just making a recommendation.
would it be okay allowing the developer that flexibility that if they are outside, they'd be in a consistent location and a consistent design, and then the ultimate builder could make that decision? So they could choose to do inside or choose to do something outside. And whatever that solution is, the HOA docs would just reflect that.
I mean, what you want to make sure is, because we ran into that before, that the builder is gonna do whatever they can to accommodate the customer. But if it creates a problem for the HOA later, then they'll say, well, builder put that in, but the HOA document says you can't have it. Well, yeah, but the builder put that in, so we're just trying to avoid those controversies that builder does one thing, but the HOA document says something else.
Yeah, put as much as you can in the HOA documents, because it's really cumbersome to change it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Really cumbersome.
Agreed.
Yep.
But that's an option, right? You're not putting that in every unit, the chargers.
Yeah, that's an upgrade.
It's optional.
So that's an option in your building when you're presenting your home? So if that's an option, where are you telling them where they can have it?
It's in the garage.
So, just for last, so we have to put it in the garage. A lot of people don't use their garage for their car. So now, I'm gonna park my car outside. How does this cord go outside? Is the garage door gonna have to sit on top of it? Is it
Yep,
gonna be open?
it can.
Or are you gonna have maybe a plug on the building, the least plug? How's that gonna work?
Just like a
Typically, you can have a cord, the cords are pretty substantial, and you can
son-in-law
either block
is-
the door slightly, or just have the door sit on top of that cord.
I mean, you just need to put some consistency in it, because, and you're right, a lot of people, they don't recommend charging the cars inside.
I mean, diesels are plugged in on a regular basis as well, so, I mean, it's not really that new. Diesel, you have to plug in diesels as well when it's really cold out, and they're,
Well, diesel's a heater, it's an engine heater.
It is.
It's not a, you're not charging.
no, it is. It's an actual extension cord,
Just throwing it out.
but it's electricity.
Right, but Dyson vacuums are lithium batteries
Right.
to plug in because we had a fire in Hayesboro on them. So the point is that, and I'm not disrespecting Jill, your point, I understand, but a fire is a fire, and there's not going to be a 6-inch wall that's going to make a difference of whether it's inside or outside.
Well, if the car's outside and it catches on fire, it's less likely to burn the building down. I mean,
Now that hot tops is discussed.
Uh-huh.
well, you're gonna decide, you're gonna put it in your HOA, and it doesn't matter to the board, right?
Yeah.
What you do?
I think we have direction that they'll be inside. If there's flexibility to the HOA, there's going to be uniformity of how that is applied, so that we
Right.
don't have inconsistency. Scott, did you want to?
Yeah, I think we're under D1, under building design. We have asked for updated renderings, because there were a number of exhibits during the preliminary approval, so we have asked for updated plans and renderings showing all of those different features. And I think the applicant, and this is the case question, the applicants indicated they don't have those this evening. So I don't know if the board has any specific questions about what the buildings will look like, or the applicant intends to provide all this information as a condition of approval, or how you propose to handle that.
Didn't the applicant, didn't we hear from council that there's been no change in that, in
Right.
those options?
The testimony and the exhibits you saw preliminary have not changed.
But a lot of those exhibits contradict each other, so
Well,
if not
I don't know that
this evening,
I think the information was there and explained. So I guess what I would propose is that if there is an expectation that we have some supplemental documents, that we permitted to do that as a condition of approval, and we'll work with you to satisfy that condition.
So are you proposing as a condition of approval to give us less than full strips of floor plans and to show us what's detailed in the report here?
Well, we submitted the building strips. That was submitted with the final application.
They don't match the garage layout and the block out, and now it doesn't comply with RSIS. So then you have a separate handout that had a structural analysis to show the trash dump. And you have about 6 different exhibits and saying, well, look at this picture, for some of the colors, but not the decks. So I can't tell the board what these are gonna look like. I don't know what they're gonna look like. And I've done 10,000 units over the last 25 years. So, well, I guess that's up to you guys. If you guys don't want to provide this information as a condition of approval, that's up to the board to make a decision. You have to submit that for building permits, correct?
Correct.
Right, but I recall them saying specifically that they were going to provide building floor plans with at final.
We submitted them at preliminary. I'll submit whatever you guys want to submit. I'll resubmit what we submitted at preliminary. We can talk about it. They're the floor plans. They're the front elevations from the blueprints. I mean, I don't know what more to give.
So there's no confusion. Submitting a new set as a condition of approval seems to be reasonable, doesn't it?
I have no problem resubmitting. I have a copy of what we submitted
Well, let's
here.
clarify. You're saying resubmit when you already resubmitted. I think what Mr. McKay is asking for is a revised set of drawings and exhibits that takes the multiple other exhibits and gives one final, this is what the fronts, the backs, the sides of the different units look like. This is where decks may be. This is the detail of the deck. So these are all in one spot. So when we sign off on resolution compliance and it goes to zoning for permits, exactly what the board thinks they're approving tonight and exactly what we sign off on is what actually gets built.
I don't know how to put all that information on one document. I mean, it's, the deck detail is the deck detail. How do I show that on a?
Thousands of D.R. Horton units, Paparone, I don't know, I don't understand. I'm not sure why there's an issue.
So let me ask a question. So, in dealing with Ryan Homes, is that we know that you have usually 3 to 5 models that you'll be selling. The question, the answer that I think that I would be looking for as a zoning officer when this stuff is coming in, on the approved site plan, if I only know that you can put a Mozart here, and you're gonna put something else there, do you guys define that, or is it subject to each buyer of what type of townhouse that you're gonna put there?
The buyer can buy a Mozart, a Beethoven, or a Strauss on any of the lots.
Okay, so that they fit all of them.
Even the end
So,
units.
Scott,
Even the end units.
Even the end units, yeah. They're all,
So
they can all
Scott,
be
is
end
it
units.
feasible for them to give us a plan that shows us a proposed Mozart, Beethoven, everything for a site plan? And does it make a difference then if it's signed off and where they're showing a Mozart and it's really a Beethoven? Does it make a difference to the board for visual effect?
What does the back of that Mozart look like though?
Okay. That's what I'm asking you, is that I'm trying to come to a resolve.
And which color is it though? Is the color scheme in the photo or the one that they submitted because, and then the two renderings both had different color schemes that were submitted as color renderings, but the testimony was, but don't look at this for the color, just look at this as an elevation. So I'm not.
You're mischaracterizing what happened, Scott. You asked for a ton of information. You asked for renderings. We gave renderings, and you said, what color are they going to be? Then we gave color schemes.
Drew,
So we're in an effort.
Since we started, with all due respect, when we started writing the redevelopment plan, I asked for this. Because every other redevelopment plan we've written, we've asked for this, and the developer's actually given it to us. He said, this is what the front will look like, the sides and the rears. We didn't do that. So we said, let's kick the can down the road to preliminary. Preliminary came, we got a briefcase of things and said, it's gonna look sort of like this, somewhat like this, and kind of like this.
No, I don't think anybody said kind of, sort of.
Well,
But
if you want to go back and listen to the recording from the last meeting, I can give you the minutes where
we did. The
The
front,
board's fine with it, we're happy to sign off.
this is what, these are the front elevations. And all this stuff has been submitted.
But the color renderings you submitted, the elevations are different. The roof tables are different.
Right, and I had said, like, those are just pretty pictures. They were not to be used for the color of them, just to give you a better look versus a black and white architectural, because the request was, give me colored architecturals. And I've never seen colored architectural plans. I haven't.
If you want, I can send you examples from
Please do.
all the other towns. All right.
And I'll, and then here are the strip elevations in black and white. They're out of the blueprints.
So if the board is comfortable with what the buildings will look like, we can move on to the landscaping comments and
Well,
are there any issues with?
well, Scott, let's not let this slip. I mean, I don't know why you can't put together an indexed binder that has all the architectural information. So if you look in the index, you can see plans available, A, B, C, D, Mozart, Beethoven, whatever the heck they're called. And they're black and white, fine. And tab B can be the colors available. So I just saw you handing a color rendering of a building, And so in one binder, whether it be electronic or paper, you have everything you need. You go to the index, you can find out, and the code official, the building officer, will be able to have that and know exactly what's being done.
Could go right to lot 31, and that's going to be elevation N, it's going to be T5 color scheme. You could look at the whole site.
But I guess the point is, they just want to, my suggestion is you put it together in an indexed fashion, so you're not shuffling papers
I got
back
it.
and forth trying to find what you want.
Yes.
So are we looking at prototype processing, or are we looking at each individual plan for each house?
That would be up to you guys. Prototype
Not
is,
us, that's up to you guys. You guys have to make that call, whether you determine that or not.
well, then I just ask the builder.
How many houses do we have here?
45.
45.
So normally what happens is the prototype processing really comes down to if you do not offer a lot of outside structural differences, very limited inside structural. The fact is that most builders want to do a prototype in this type of situation. If you're doing a mega house, then you're not doing prototype processing. So you guys have to come up with that decision if it's better for you to do a prototype processing, which is not always a bad idea in this type of situation. I agree with what they're saying is the sense it's not hard to come up with the Mozart. So you have 4 pages of the Mozart, is that you have the front, the side, and the rear, because again, any of these houses can go to the side, the last house. So we want to see what the window lines. There's no doubt in my mind that when you're selling these to a homeowner is that you have that packet that says what your Mozart looks like. This is the front, this is the back, this is the details. When you're doing something like that, that can come into play. And it doesn't have to be anything arduous. You're not creating a mansion. You have 4 homes that are very, as far as I'm concerned, simple. And I know
They're the
that.
same house, it's just some of them are deeper.
But
There's an
in
extension.
Scott's defense here is that he's signing off on a plan that comes to my office, and I rely on that approved site plan to compare the house that you're looking to my site plan. Because eventually, no matter what they approve, it's going to come to our office, and it's our responsibility to make sure that what they've ever approved, Scott, the board, everything, we have to go, okay. So there's a lot of situations here that I think are very clearly defined. I respect all of them. Being in this industry for 30-plus years is that I can see both points. Yet it's becoming more complicated than it needs to be. So I think you guys need to step back, revisit what they're asking for, and come up with a simple plan.
Zach, I have a question. I'm gonna try to walk through the process. So I come down and buy property, and I buy a Mozart. Okay? I'm the first guy, and I say, I don't know if you have red, but I want red, okay? So I'm sort of.
I'd ask you, what lot do you want to be on? You gotta pick a lot.
I don't know how you would, don't know how we would come up with color drawings when you don't know what colors tenants are gonna pick. And then the second thing is.
Well, they don't pick
Are you
it.
gonna put red houses next to a red house, or is it gotta be, well, whatever colors you have? Are you gonna put a red house next to, or, you know, like, what do you got, beige there?
Yeah,
Like, I remember back
earthy,
when he
earthy
built
tones.
it, if you had a White House, he didn't wanna put another White House, remember, next to your White House, you had to put another color. That color's taken. Are you gonna do something like that as far as, and then how do the colors come into play right now, the color renderings, or just, you know, why we necessarily need color renderings right now?
All the color scheme are predetermined to a particular lot. I can tell you what, if you ask me what lot on this plan, lot 37.
So you picked them.
Yeah, we started at color scheme 1, lot 1, went to 8, then started on 9 with color scheme
If I
1.
buy that house, I'm getting the color you want to give me.
Yeah, and you might say, I don't like that color, and I'll say, well, pick a different lot. If you, and find,
Okay, all right.
within that building, I mean, we're not gonna open up a different building.
Now I'm trying to remember that. But we don't have those colors, or we do?
You do. Colors were submitted in packet too. There's 8 color schemes. And what we did in this particular community is we started, so lot 4 is the end unit of one building, goes to lot 8. We are running every color scheme. So lot 4 is color scheme 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth and so on. And we're continuing that even into the next building, where typically it would start over. And you'd get more of the same units. And in order to minimize the number of the same elevations and same colors, we're running all the way through the 8 colors, and we'll start the new sequence in the middle of the building. And then we'll start over. And what that does is,
And we've had that, Scott has that? Scott, you have that?
I don't have a rendering of what the color schemes will look like, or how they.
He's got one right there, doesn't he?
I don't know that
So-
that's one of the representative color schemes. I don't think that one was submitted.
this was packet.
One right there?
Yeah, this was packet 1 that was submitted. And we had to follow
Can I make a suggestion?
I mean, it is complicated. I mean, it does get a little confusing because we're talking lots and different color schemes on different elevations.
Are there shutters on the backs of the buildings?
Correct. We testified to putting this on.
All right, because the last exhibit you gave us didn't have them on the backs.
Can I make a suggestion? Because I think what I'm saying, Scott, is I know you're frustrated because you're used to getting a D.R. Horton image of precisely what they put in every single town they come to. This is Longbridge. They don't have the ability to produce the same thing or haven't to date. And I understand that has been a frustrating point. What I would propose, because we need to make a decision about how we're going to proceed tonight, is that we continue to work with you to meet that condition as a condition of final. We have worked through a number of the other issues to get to this point tonight. And having worked with Drew, I understand that feels like he's trying to address your concerns and present the information you're requesting. So I don't think there's a desire not to appease what you're trying to accomplish and get that information to you. We will continue to work with you as a condition of approval to meet that requirement.
And the floor plans will be updated to reflect the trash note and to show compliance 9x18, because we talked about it in that Zoom.
Yes. So the
Several
floor plans have
of
been-
the floor plans now don't comply. You would actually need an RSIS
We-
mark.
We have updated
There
that.
there were 2 of the units, the N unit had a typo in there that's been corrected. So they're greater than, it was 8'11" and 7/8. It needs to be 9, and they've been revised to 9'3" like the other units.
And I think there
We
was
did-
another one that was smaller than that as well, but they will all.
They have been corrected, yeah. We actually have copies, but I don't, we have 20 copies of each. I'd rather compile it all, because Doug's right. We want to get you the information you want. I'm struggling with the format to give it to you. But I think we can get there. And we'll have to just not think about the renderings. They were meant for just an idea, not for the color scheme. It was just to look better than the blueprints. So I think we got off track with those.
Mr. Chairman, should I move on to the landscaping comments?
I-
Are there any issues with any of those?
Yeah, I just don't understand, how are we resolving the building issues before we move on to landscaping? I mean, and
I'm proposing and requesting that we, as a condition of final approval, continue to work with Scott to present with him the final information that he wants in the format he wants, so that they can see when things are submitted, that they are compliant with what was approved.
so then you're basically asking us to, in any kind of a motion to approve, it's all subject to Mr. Taylor.
Right, and if there's any dissatisfaction or concern, we would be required that if we couldn't meet that condition to the satisfaction of Mr. Taylor, we'd
I
have to
mean,
come back.
we have confidence in Mr. Taylor, but I don't want to shift too much of a burden on him that he doesn't
I
want.
understand.
Is Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir. So they will, with D1, they'll submit that information.
But are you comfortable with accepting that responsibility?
We've all driven by some really bad examples of backs of townhouses in surrounding communities. Those are the kinds of things that get planners run out of towns. And I need to make sure that that doesn't happen here, because these are going to be very visible to the surrounding roads. So if the board's willing to give me enough rope to hang myself, I'll do the best I can with the applicant. My preference would have been that you guys would have had a clear example of exactly what all four sides of these buildings would have looked like. But if the board wants me to work this out through resolution compliance work, we're happy to take that and run with it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So what would be the timetable that these folks could get you those drawings? How long? I mean, a week, 2 weeks, a month?
2 weeks?
And I don't know,
Well,
I've never heard this before.
Excuse me, just so, you're signaling, Mr. Ravicchio, 2 weeks? That's the answer to Mr. McLaughlin's question, right? Okay, yeah, because we have to record these things, and,
I didn't want to speak because I was not sworn in.
no, that's okay.
Again, I'm just talking here. Was,
So I have a statement, is
yeah,
that,
I'm not trying to, I'm
Okay.
not trying to, you don't mind. I want to
Don't mind.
throw something out there. Well, hey, it is what it is, okay. So, has it ever been done where an approval may be granted, subject to Scott's approval, and then Scott just throws some drawings around at the next meeting, without necessarily making the applicant come in? And is there a formal process that could take place where the board had an opportunity to look at and review, so Scott's not hanging himself? Has that ever been done? I don't.
well, this is kind of where I'm going, Bruce. Is
Well,
it
you're gonna answer it then,
possible?
yeah, thank you.
Well, let me segue into that. Is it possible then, once their professionals send everything to Taylor Design, can it be done by a PDF? And at that point, can that be taken a look at via email for anything? Meaning that, Scott, if you're comfortable with that or not comfortable with that, is that possible to go to any of us to take a look at, or is that not?
The sending it is easy. The hard part is, and this is where it becomes sort of a legal issue.
And that's where I'm going
once the
with
board
this.
has voted to
Right.
approve it, to then start saying, I would have liked this, or I didn't expect that. That's where it sort of opens.
That's why I'm bringing this up, because that's what, I'm looking at the fact is that I understand their frustration, but I also understand the board has something that they're putting solely on you, and you're a fantastic planner, I'm never gonna take that away from you, and I think that you'll make a great decision. but I feel like this is almost a first, if that's the case.
And again, if you don't mind, if you, and you mentioned it, if you were not able to satisfy your requirements, they're willing to come back to the board, or they're actually gonna need to come back to the board, because that's just the way it is. But if you're satisfied with their, I mean, just simply, I mean, that's the end of it. There's gonna be a approval tonight, hopefully, or not hopefully, based on them satisfying you. And if you're not satisfied, that approval doesn't exist. So if the voting members of the board were able to take a look at your rendering.
That was what was said for the legal issue. That's what I
But
was.
they're gonna grant him the up or down on, no? On approving it?
What's that?
Well, grant final approval conditions upon the planner approving the plan. You can do that. And if he's
Yeah,
not
they don't have any drawings for us.
approving what they're submitting,
They don't have any drawings for
they
us to
haven't
look at.
satisfied that condition, they'll have to come back before the board.
Right, but does he have, again, does he have the option to say, I'll approve it, but I want the board to take a look at it before I grant final, before you approve it?
Well, then that's not satisfying the condition.
Right. He's either satisfied or
But you
he's
believe
not.
you said, all right, well, I mean, he would have to believe he satisfied the condition.
But is the
All on
hang
Scott.
up that you just, Scott, that you don't have all of the correct renderings or plans or whatnot, but what they're saying is that nothing has changed, so it's like how the one thing was 8 7/8 or whatever, and it should be 9. So that's been corrected, so that you don't have the corrected copy of that, is that what I'm understanding?
Those are the very minor issues.
Okay.
Kind of that bigger issue
The whole,
you know, what, we had exhibits that said there are shutters on the rear facades. The ones that were also handed out at the last meeting, I think it was Exhibit A6, did not have shutters. So some did, some did not.
Okay.
So I was concerned, and because we had this sort of amalgam of exhibits, that it was, well, look at this color rendering, but don't look at the colors, just look at it for prettiness. And then look at these other things for this, except we're gonna have decks on the backs of ours, but ignore this part. So part of my job is to really advance if the board is comfortable with that. And if the board is comfortable with what they look like, or they're willing to defer to that, then I can, I can handle that. But the main thing is, this is your town, you should build in your community.
But you're gonna make sure that there's, I guess, symmetry between all of them,
And consistency.
right? Okay.
Could you do this?
If the board wants final say on the architecturals, then you can make that a condition of final approval. And they can bring them back before the board at next month's meeting. You either want to do that yourselves or you want Scott to do it. But one way or the other, there's got to be an approval of the final architectural.
Here's the thing, meetings are, and we're sitting here, we don't have all the documents. I'm like,
Again.
I wonder, what are we doing here? Like, why?
Again.
Why don't they know they don't have them? What's going on? I mean, can at least you make sure that you have all the documents they want before we get them back in here? Because, we're not, it doesn't sound to me like we kind of agree on what the case is we're hearing here.
I will state again, we have, I think there's frustration on both sides of the table, and I'm not blaming either side of the table. I think Mr. Crisanda has tried to respond to comments. Mr. Taylor has clearly indicated that he wants a more uniform, single submission. We are amenable to trying to work through those issues as we have with a number of other issues with the board professionals. It's not for a lack of trying. So we will do our best to comply with that. If in 2 weeks there's further discussion or further revisions needed and Mr. Taylor feels it's not ready to come back to present to the board, we understand that. But we are asking for final approval. I think the information we have presented is going to be consistently represented in what we submit. It's not as if we're changing anything as to what was preliminary testified to or proposed. We understand there are inconsistencies with the documents that make it more difficult for Mr. Taylor to show those consistencies, and we'll address that. This is going to be a very nice townhouse community. I think if you look at some of the other developments that have gone up in the neighboring towns and compared to this, I don't want to name names, but it rhymes with D.R. Horton. This is going to look, we think, far superior to that. So we're proud of what we're proposing here, and we have no problem trying to further address those concerns.
I think the issue that we're all stuck on is we were of the assumption that this was going to be final site plan approval. And I've got so many final site plans in front of me from this project that I don't know which is which. You know, I mean, I'm looking at some of the paperwork that I saved from the other, and like a little thing, like Mr. McKay was talking about Foxwood, the one street. I mean, I have a thing in here with final site plan that calls that street something else. You know, it's part of the original. I know I understand things have changed, but final's supposed to mean final. And although I made the comment or the suggestion about putting it on Mr. Taylor for approval, and I don't think that that's fair. Because, you know, the board is the body that's supposed to make the decisions, and we do rely upon our professionals, but I think we have to be given some more information. I don't like to delay things. Some people have heard me say it many times. Nothing personal, but I don't like the applicants coming back all the time, because it's taking up time, and time is money. Would love to render a decision, approve this, subject to Mr. Taylor's approval, but I don't think we have enough information to do that in this instance. And I'm not saying we should postpone this whole thing, but I think we can make some progress. And, you know, maybe if the plans are given to you, Mr. Taylor, you know, the renderings and everything else, and we can get a report on it for the next meeting, we'll be in a position to make a decision. Or if Mr. Crisanda has a rendition right there that you've been referring to, if that's what it's going to look like.
Oh, yeah. I have the strips, like if it's a 4-unit, and then I have the individuals, they're just a little bit bigger, so you can see the actual like elevation
Okay,
L.
but then what about the colors?
And the colors are all right here. You just have to ask me where do you show them? I'll show you on the, you tell me on the site plan where do you want that, you know, where's that, what color is that going to be on lot 33? I just have to look at my chart, and I'd be happy to tell you.
And you have the rear of the building showing the shutters, and the
Yeah.
garage is showing all of
Yeah.
the cutouts for the trash and recycling?
We have a separate detail, so the blueprints do not show, it's like a rider. And we testified, you know, we will put that nook in. The plans are, you know, this is a modification to a national builder's plan. They're not going to redraw their plans because Drew asked them.
These plans are obviously well-known to you, but watching you explain that to us, you're shuffling papers.
Yeah, I know.
You can't expect a planner to be able to figure that out intuitively. So it should be on you to put together an easy to follow, easy enough for a professional to follow, plan so that all of that is spelled out in one document or a binder or however you organize them, but not to be talking to us and
Well, I
shuffling
wasn't prepared.
papers back and forth.
We did this at preliminary. That's why I wasn't prepared to.
All this board's trying to do is get an organized packet of paper, I'll use that as an example, get it to the planner. And Mr. Kingsbury, to take the heat off the planner, you get those to him in 2 weeks, he takes a look at them. He can come back to this board, whether you're here or not, and explain to this board the packet that he got. And if he approves, if he approves it, he can tell the board that, and the board can say, we agree with you, and your condition is satisfied. If there's a problem, he can tell us that, and the condition then isn't yet satisfied, but I'm sure you will satisfy it down the line. So why are we arguing about this? Why don't we just do it?
Let's do it.
That makes
Right.
sense.
I mean, we did have, just, and to be clear, to be fair, we did get you on September's agenda per your requests, and then somehow it couldn't be heard. So we did try our best to.
I'm not gonna point fingers, Paul.
I'm not either. But, you know, we worked diligently behind the scenes to accommodate, you know, the need for you guys to be heard so that we're following the statutory requirements.
Understood.
And we're here today in October.
Understood.
You know, another thing too, with all due respect, it's not like we're asking for something out of the ordinary. Take me, for example. Suppose I'm interested in buying, investing in one of these townhouses. You're going to have to answer all these questions. I want to know what it's going to look like, and shutters, no shutter, everything, if I'm a prospective
I'm
buyer.
the developer. I'm just here to get my lots approved so I can then start doing business, truly doing business with the builder. I'm not building the units. I'm not the builder.
I think, again, not to get back in the weeds in this, but what is normally seen is probably from instances where the national developer is front and center as the applicant. We're working with a 45-unit townhouse development. We've made efforts to make that a very nice development. Again, we're willing to do this as a condition, and we would hope the board would treat it that way.
You're saying something like, I want a brick facade, and I want the Beethoven, and I want it to be an end unit, and I want it to be in building 4. You go, sorry, we can't be there. I could do that in building 2.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what you're
Brick is not
saying.
being offered, and so that would, yeah.
I will tell you, coming from over 15 years of working for national builders, that is absolutely true what they're testifying to. They have things specified already, what they're going to do and not going to do in regards to, no, you can't do the
Right, but I mean,
Those are there,
you said
not
brick,
color.
but you're not saying, these aren't the fronts are just, are they stone? Some of them are stone and some of them are,
Yeah, they're,
is that what they look like?
I hate to flip through it. Yeah, they look like, these are the
Well, that's
elevation.
black, I can't tell what that is. Is that like these or no?
No, that's a marketing piece that is circulated out. It was, again, I think it's doing us a
So
disservice.
they're gonna be
We-
vinyl, they're all gonna be vinyl siding?
There will be vinyl, yes, and stone, water tables, some of them are
This
three-quarter.
one? Okay, more like this picture. Okay, so, all right, so I want
But truly, the blue,
I want
that's
one
what,
with a stone front, but I want it on the end.
can't do it.
Can't do it at
It
all.
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't exist.
Oh, because I thought you said they changed with each building.
They do, I mean, if one happens to land there and,
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
if-
I want it, you know.
oh, if you said,
if
Drew, I like
think that I
elevation
want
L.
this, I want it to look like this, but I want it on the end. Could you know, would there be a unit, would there be something like that in the development? I might have to wait.
Yeah, if you said you like
9 months.
elevation L, that's what, you know.
Okay.
I'd say, well, you can have it on lot 3, lot 9, lot 15, lot 23,
Right.
lot
Give me-
33, lot 39, lot 45.
Okay,
I don't know when I'm gonna, but the
Right.
building I'm selling is lot 3, so,
right.
and you can wait.
So if
Yeah.
I want it right now, I
You
can't
might have to
it.
wait, or if it's available, I'd
Okay.
love to, they
Usually the
would love to sell.
sales manager already knows what that's going to be, because I don't know, for 345.
But usually there's a thing, with colors.
I'd have to
and
defer to the builder, I mean,
Well, that's-
yeah.
That's to your guys' disadvantage right now. Knowing how this works intimately, there should have been somebody here from them, because that would have answered pretty much probably 99% of the questions, to be quite frank.
Well, we have
I work with the builder, I'm swearing.
Then you should be up here trying to what Drew's trying to deal with.
Sir, will you please, Mr. Kingsbury, I'll have to swear you in.
You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight to be the truth and the truth of your truth.
Yes.
Name, please.
Jason McNee.
Jason
McNee, MC, capital N-E-E.
And what is your capacity that you're coming before us?
I'm the division manager for the southern market for Ryan Homes.
For the builder?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, proceed then.
So what Drew just explained is exactly correct. We will have the predetermined building layouts. There'll be 3 different floor plans that'll be offered. Those 3 different floor plans can be interchangeably mixed within those buildings depending on the buyer's preference. Now, the exteriors of the buildings, they're all going to be predetermined and look the same. Regardless of which unit you put in there, it's going to be that same elevation on the exterior. So as Drew explained, if you wanted an elevation L, there's only a certain number of lots that's going to be on in the community. We'll know that from day one. As you said, the sales are, somebody comes in, buildings are laid out, they want to buy an L, we direct them to that building, or they're going to have to pick something different.
In his defense, as he said, is he's only the developer.
Mm-hmm.
So we're putting this on him, so there should be some portion of the builder that is helping my planner out here.
He has, I mean, I'm getting this information from them, but ultimately, it's, these guys could say, Drew, this is too hard, and leave.
It can't be too hard.
Well, I'm just saying, the reality is, my builder might say,
So
you're on your own.
For Scott's question, on the exterior facades, that was a question. Scott, if you have a bulleted list of items that you need to see on the rears, we absolutely want to work with you on that. If shutters are a requirement, we would, let's make that a condition of the approval.
Well, I think it was less of a requirement and more of, tell us what the building is.
Yeah, I was just.
Are they? We have exhibits showing both.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really that matter of.
So I think to answer Scott's question, we could give you strip elevations that will show each building, a 6-unit building, 7-unit building. Here are the strip elevations that will be included in that building. Now, in that building, it could be a Mozart, Beethoven, Strauss, but the strip elevation will remain the same. The offsets in the rear would obviously change depending on the depth of the home. We could provide you with a rear elevation of that same building. If you want, we can put the decks on there as, label them optional or however you want to see that designated. As far as the color schemes go, I think Drew kind of explained, that gets a little bit more challenging to create, 7 different building strip elevations. That's going to probably be a pretty cumbersome packet for everybody, but I think we could, work through whatever, legend you would like to see there to make it easy to follow along with.
So if we had black and white of the front, the side, and the rear, but then we had to use the color matrix or legend, would that be acceptable?
Well, I mean, that's really a question for the board. The board may want to see
Yeah,
color schemes.
How many color schemes do you have?
8.
And the largest building is a 7-unit building?
8.
An 8.
8.
Yeah.
So that would be,
We could put them all in that.
and then each building repeats those patterns, but to a lesser degree, depending upon how many units there are.
Yes. You got it. Yeah.
Would it be, could we do just one side of the road? Like maybe show us what buildings 7, 6, and 5 would look like, which is a 4-unit, a 6-unit, a 7-unit, and maybe even 4?
Yeah.
So in a sense, it would be, we would kind of be taking a journey along the Fox Road and the
Yes,
Friendship Road.
Yes, we can put together colorized strip elevations for a 4-unit building, 6-unit building, 7-unit building, yes.
what makes it harder is that we're not starting over at every building. If we were, I could
Right.
show you the 8 and say, every left-end unit, that's unit A, and it's gonna be these colors in a row. But since we're running through the 8 color schemes, regardless of the number of units in a building, it creates more variation. So
And I like that.
we're kind of kicking our own butt here, you know, making.
Sounds good in the beginning when you get new buyers but when you get down to the last few buildings and a buyer says, I want this color. I can see.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
You're gonna say
Now,
goodbye.
Nice color schemes, I don't, you know, we don't have any
Many
like.
a sale that way.
Huh?
I've lost many a sale in my career because of that.
Yep.
And it's,
That's it.
It's the way it
It
goes.
is.
Yeah, we're
somebody will
beholden.
buy it.
Somebody else will come up, yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think the horse is dead.
Not another big
Yeah, the
horse.
Phillies have had 2-0.
So, I mean, I would like to make the recommendation to show, 4 building units, a full binder of just, 4 units showing the renderings, the colors, the front, the side, and the rear, showing the shutters, showing the decks, the options, making it clear that these are options. Weren't there other options also, like kitchen abutments and any kind of interior? Okay, just the.
On the exterior, the only option would be a
Deck.
deck. Even on the interiors, there's really no structural options that are available.
And there were only 3 models, you said? And the only thing that differs is
The
the
depth.
One is
depth of
32 feet, one is 36, and then one is 42. They're the same unit, they just have deeper backs to them. They used to just be called a Fairmont, Fairmont Grand, Fairmont Grand Deluxe. It was the same, but you chose a different option, you decided to market it as an actually different.
And I'd like to see the fencing in between the units as well as what the side will look like with the shutters.
We'll get it. I thought we submitted a picture, an actual picture that showed the
Did.
fencing, it showed the AC compressors, it was.
We'll put it on a
There was a few.
consolidated rendering.
Yeah, that's the thing, probably. Okay, so we're gonna postpone this till next week.
And the front shutters and the overhangs, everything will be on those.
Yes.
When will all this be ready?
As we said earlier, we should be able to have this pulled together in 2 weeks.
And then the only other thing I would suggest is, I know Mr. Taylor had said there was landscaping issues, so maybe instead of us discussing all of it here, you guys could just work it all out ahead of time and you could say, good to go.
Well, I think like a lot of the other technical items in our report, most of the landscape issues are relatively minor, and I
Okay.
think there was agreement that they will comply and work through those issues as a condition of approval after the fact.
Okay.
So the architect was really the only issue that I was, specifically, have some understanding of.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And to be clear, all of the street trees, and that's all going to be HOA requirement?
Well, we'll install, and then eventually it becomes part of the property of the HOA.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Once they live through the initial phase, hopefully they continue to live. Don't become a burden.
And I think they are proposed behind the sidewalk, not between the curb and sidewalk.
Okay.
Within a sidewalk easement for the HOA.
Right.
Okay, not to add to the, well, anyway, are there any low and moderate income housing involved with this?
No, we are paying an in lieu fee, and that's in accord with the redevelopment plan and agreement that was negotiated with the township.
Okay.
How about the single houses? Did we get any renderings of them, of any of the models, or we're not requiring that?
It's not part of a development, so it's not going, it's going to be single-family lot with the preference of the homeowner, the same it would be elsewhere. Thank you.
I know that, time is of the essence, if you will, from, everybody's standpoint. They want to get done with this and get on. And I don't like asking a question and I don't have a reasonable idea what the answer is going to be, but if they're saying they can have all this information for us in 2 weeks, do we have to wait for the November meeting, or can we call a special meeting? And if we do, Mr. Kingsbury, what has to be done regarding notices and so forth?
Too late.
Well, you have to give notice of a special meeting, I think it's 48 hours.
So-
Schedule a special meeting, notice will not be a problem because it's not a long notice period.
Okay.
Or are you willing to come in November?
Well, what I was going to suggest is something that we've done elsewhere, and I don't know if Mr. Kingsbury would be amenable to it, but we've covered, I think, pretty much everything except for this architectural issue in terms of final and what's going to be presented to the board. If we go through this process, present this in 2 weeks, and are back before you, would it be possible to have the resolution prepared so that we don't lose that month? That'd be very much appreciated. That gets us back on track,
A lot of times people ask me to do that before they even come to the meeting. but
See,
I'm trying to say that.
we're barely asking for anything then, right?
Yeah, I can do that, yeah. In other words, if the board doesn't want to make a final decision tonight, I can have a resolution ready for adoption at the next meeting that will cover all this.
Okay, not at a special meeting.
Not a special.
No, it'd be.
Yeah, I think if we could come in, I think that gives the 2-week period, and it's going to give Mr. Taylor time to review before, give some feedback, make sure we're not caught in a situation where he's not satisfied before we even get back to you.
Okay.
If you take 2 weeks to get Mr. Scott Taylor's renderings, he's going to need some time to look at them.
Yeah,
That's sufficient time. If they get them in 2 weeks, that'll give you more than enough time to sort of coordinate any minor issues. But I do appreciate it. I wish my other clients would.
No, but are you both talking about in time for the November meeting?
Yeah.
November 1st, I think it is, isn't it?
First.
Well, then, if that's the case, Mr. Kingsbury is not going to be able to have a resolution at the November 1st meeting.
Well, I think what he would do is summarize everything from tonight and then write some language in, assuming that the architecture is acceptable as presented with minor modifications to be refined.
Okay, so then we don't have to have a special meeting. So I'm just trying to ferret this out. All right.
Appreciate that.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I appreciate the concept. I think that will give us the right amount of time, though, to get back before you.
Okay. Sure.
4-0. Isn't it 3 or 4? Wait a minute. Sorry.
So are you,
Three, no, you're right.
are you requesting a continuance to the November 1st meeting then?
Well, we should touch on Marty.
I was, okay, but I was going to go there, but yes.
Somebody have a clock in here?
No.
Yeah. 9:16.
No, what's the ticking sound? Don't you all hear it?
Yes, we do.
Ticking.
It's okay.
It's okay. No.
Irene, it's okay.
We should have answered, nobody else heard it.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear it?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go through Marty's letter. Marty's not done yet. Marty's got to give his.
Not yet. Not yet.
So is Marty going to give his report?
Yeah, we're going to, Mr. Miller, your turn on your letter. I think it's August.
Exactly the problem you've been discussing with.
I don't think his microphone's on.
The problem was with Mr. Clemson. He had to make some changes to the drainage plan in order to satisfy our discharge to Route 38. I said that you gotta make this thing, gotta satisfy me, because I'm not coming to the board with something that will need to be put on me when we're done. I said, I don't want that. You gotta come to me today and say it's gonna work, and show me it's gonna work. And he did that. He finished the whole thing and said, we are through. And he brought this in so that I can say to the board, yes, the drainage is gonna work, and I'm satisfied with it. I have a 8-page letter here that has 50-some different items that he addressed. There were 2 open items. One had to do with the homeowners association, and we surely took care of that tonight. And the other thing had to do with the EV charging stations, and you took care of that.
So you're referring to your August 31st letter? Okay.
That horse is dead, is that what you're telling us?
We got a lot of dead horses here. I'm confused, what are we doing?
So with that, I think the game plan is that we've addressed 90% of the letter review. We're going to do a submission within 2 weeks to address the architectural comments in the Taylor design letter.
Right.
That will bring us back before you next month, and that at that time, Mr. Kingsbury has been kind enough to indicate that he will have a resolution of approval prepared. That would be greatly appreciated because that gets us essentially back on track time-wise.
Okay.
And with that, we would request that from the board.
Okay. I need a motion and a second
Do
to,
you want to hear public, see if there's any public?
Yeah. Yeah, I would open it up to see if there's anything they have to address.
yes.
You swear or affirm testimony you give will be truthful,
Can you give us your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Bud Burns, Fostertown Road in Hainesport. Lived here since 1977. Bud Burns, not Bud Light, Bud Burns. The joke is wearing out. Yeah. No, I just got to say, I mean, I was on a planning board with Tom years ago, and, you know, you guys do a great job. Everybody does. But I live right behind this, hopefully this development on Fostertown Road. And I look when this first meeting I've been to for here, but I look at the minutes and I go and it seems like things go back and forth, back and forth. He has it, he has it, he don't have it, he don't have it. It's kind of getting like a little ridiculous. And I know Eric, his father, his grandfather, not that that matters, but like he's a homegrown guy. He's not Paparone or all these other big outfits. I mean, the guy's going to do a good job. He lives right behind me. He helps me out. Now I got Drew. I became friends with Drew. He's putting an addition on for me. While you're waiting for this to go through, he's putting an addition on me so he can make some money. I just think, you know, sometimes we look at things too much. Like, I'm sitting back there, my blood pressure went up to 97, or my thing, 97. I'm sitting back there like, we're talking about shutters. And I know that's all part of it. Shutters.
But Bud, let me remind you something.
What?
We are all here to protect you as residents.
I understand that. I understand that. But there's not even a shovel on the ground. We're talking about shovel or shutters. That's what I'm saying. I'm just speaking out of turn. I had to get my blood pressure down. That's all. But I just say, like, I vouch for these guys. And I know a few of you up there, but I was here, I saw Hainesport Chase go up, and I'm sure all this bull went through the same thing when that did. And I'm glad I wasn't here, but see it, but I was here. But that's all I have to say. All right, now I gotta get home and watch the Phillies.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment on this application? Yes, my driver.
Is that true?
Testimony you give will be truthful, Your name, please.
Dolores Kroll Pfeiffer.
Dolores.
Dolores. You can put D if you want. It's easier.
Spell your last name, please.
Krollfeifer.
It's like mine.
It's like that guy up there. He knows.
The chairperson.
Just one thing, was the traffic study done yet? That's it. Because if these guys have to come back, and that comes up when they come back, and they're not prepared, they'll be here 3 months from now. So why not ask now?
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. We need a motion and a second to continue this application till the November 1st meeting. Is that date correct? November 1st is the first Wednesday?
Yes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bradley?
Who?
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Ms. Costco, yes. And Chairman Kroll Pfeiffer.
Yes. Okay, Counselor, we're good? Okay, thank you. See you November 1st. All right. The next order of business, and I'm assuming Mr. Taylor is presenting this, the Haynes Mobile Park rehabilitation.
Oh, yes. I can just put my tap dance shoes on.
All right.
Yeah, this was actually an expansion, as the board knows. The Haynes Mobile Park area was determined to be an area in need of rehabilitation. The local redevelopment and housing law. And this basically just extends that designation to the adjacent right-of-way as well, to allow for some flexibility as that project moves forward.
Greenwood Avenue.
It's very minor modification.
Oh, I thought we were going through a whole presentation with
No.
That'll
development.
happen next time.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
The road, that's going straight to 38, or is there going to be a back entrance?
so right now, the back of the site backs up to the Haynes Court Commerce Center property.
Correct.
And access to the site, Lorraine.
Oh, you fell.
Comes
Yeah.
off of Route 38. And then Greenwood Ave, there's a little stub of Greenwood that ends at the Haynes Court Enterprises property because the township years ago had vacated the central portion of that. So as part of the redevelopment, Lorraine Ave is still necessary, and that will be a public street, but there's contemplation of vacating that stub leftover spot of Greenwood in conjunction with the rehabilitation plan.
So that leftover stub goes from where to where?
Lorraine to Greenwood.
Basically, from Lorraine, which is where the Allen's Oil site was.
Yeah.
It's a very small stub
Right.
street there, almost looks like a driveway. It basically goes from there, I don't know, 200 feet to the west, where the Hainesport Enterprises complex begins, because Greenwood has already been vacated through Hainesport Enterprises. So there is no existing through traffic. There will not be any additional through traffic. It's really contemplation of having that unused stub of Greenwood vacated so it can be incorporated and improved as part of the mobile home community upgrades that they're anticipating.
So is that the stripe resolution that I'm looking at?
Yes.
Thank you, Paula.
So the job of the board tonight is to provide any comments or anything to the township committee, because this will go back to the governing body next month for formal approval of this resolution. So they authorized it to be sent to you guys tonight. They did that last night.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, Mr. Taylor, what do you envision is going to ultimately happen with this mobile park?
So,
Is it going to be moved out, or?
no, so they have actually, a new entity has purchased it, and they have been upgrading some of their on-site infrastructure in some of the units, and they have more aggressive plans to add some amenities and for a minor expansion of that, but paving the roads, cleaning it up, right now there's a line of mailboxes on Lorraine, so they want to create a cluster mailbox unit and have accessible parking and a sheltered gazebo, picnic pavilion, and some tables and other amenities, parking and actual trash enclosure, like around your dumpster instead of them just sort of sitting out. So there's a handful of upgrades. So the next step would be like a lot of other projects. We're working on finalizing some of those conceptual things, and then, which includes architectural elevations. that will be included in- Yes. So then at a future meeting, that will be introduced. That wasn't subtle at all. That will be introduced by Township Committee and then referred back to this board for master plan consistency.
Okay.
But it's sort of a facelift of that site and a little injection of some upgrades.
Okay.
Is that a traditional trailer park arrangement where they rent the plot? The homeowner, so to speak, owns the trailer?
Yes,
And that's the way it goes?
yes.
Okay.
And we are capturing some affordable
Or they lease the land.
units with this project. 2?
I think the numbers got to be.
Not to be determined.
Okay. So exactly what do you need from us?
I think just I don't know, Paul, a motion to accept and endorse, and if there are any recommendations back to the governing body, agreeing with the inclusion of the right-of-way in the designated rehabilitation area.
Perfect. Okay.
That's from a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
That was not anything from over here.
I'm looking at my agenda and it doesn't say any of that.
It's just really a discussion on this resolution, so the board needs to just, we had the discussion.
Okay.
And if the board is in agreement with this resolution, then you just make a motion to say you agree with or without recommendations or comments. And then it goes back to the Township Committee.
We agree with allowing that piece of Greenwood Avenue to be incorporated into the mobile park, is that basically what we're saying?
Right, to include it.
Into the, okay.
Allows the lot to be studied.
Okay.
We're looking at the right-of-way, so it's just an expansion of the rehabilitation area.
That we previously approved.
Yes.
Okay, so Mrs. Costco, are you making a motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
All right.
I'll second. I'll second if I don't choke to death.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Bradley? Yes. Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Ms. Costco, yes, and Chairman Kroll-Pfeiffer.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for that presentation.
Sure, I spent quite a while preparing it. But Paul looked over and said, Scott.
Okay, next order of business, we have the minutes for the June 8th meeting. Need a motion and a second to accept and file.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the June 8th meeting. The file.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Bradley, were you
Yes.
here? Were you here at that meeting?
Were you here for that meeting?
No, he was not.
No.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Ms. Casco, yes. Chairman Kroll-Pfeiffer?
I wasn't there.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, you were.
You were.
June 8th?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, yes, you're right, that was before the fall. Okay, all right, yes.
And, I mean, I think we have enough votes, but Mr. McLaughlin was there. Did you?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Next, Resolution 2023-13, it's the bulk variance, non-conforming resident. Need a motion and a second on that?
All of those resolutions.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept Resolution 2023-13.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy's not here. Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Casco? Yes. Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Chairman Kroll-Pfeiffer?
Yes.
I believe that's it.
Okay, next, Resolution 2023-14, denying the use variance for expansion of the single-family home. Need a motion and a second on that.
I make a motion that we accept Resolution 2023-14.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Casco, yes. Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
And Chairman Kroll-Pfeiffer?
Yes. And the last resolution, 2023-15, granting bulk variance with related improvements for fenced-in outdoor storage. 15.
Mr. Kroll-Pfeiffer, was that for ABC Supply?
I'm just looking at it.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Just to give
Yeah,
you-
on 3 Mary Way.
Just to let you know that Mr. Myers, the fire official, and I did go out that following week and met with them in regards to the items that were required, so we did follow up on that, and then we will join Mr. Taylor.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept Resolution 2023-15.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Casco, yes. Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
And Chairman Kroll-Pfeiffer?
Yes. Correspondence, we have 4 items. Need a motion and a second to accept the correspondence and file it.
I make a motion that we accept correspondence and file it.
I'll second.
Questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilmore?
Yes.
Ms. Casco, yes. Mr. Tricoci?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tyndale?
Yes.
And Chairman Kroll-Pfeiffer?
Yes.
And Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Professional comments?
Go Phillies.
Pardon?
Go Phillies.
Any board comments?
Yeah, I'll go last. Anybody else have one? No? Gone. So, it's been bannered about on social media that I in particular shouldn't vote on certain cases because, I guess everybody knows I'm a Bob got a call today, I don't know if you want to,
I didn't get a call.
got an email, and Bob called me, and it's so preposterous that I can't honestly describe it, but I feel that a big insult's been dealt to the board through me, that I would be in a conflict of interest for voting on a project that another Republican might own the property. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, all Democrats will have to vote on Republican projects, and maybe Republicans are only allowed to vote on Democrat projects. Next thing you know, girls can't vote for boys, and Catholics versus Protestants. So, Bob, I wanted to get your opinion in case I'm so fortunate to vote on the next project that comes in here with a Republican.
It wasn't presented in quite that way.
Oh, that's how it's taken.
But I didn't think the way it was presented established a conflict in your situation. Because if you start disqualifying people because of their political views, you're not gonna have anybody disqualified.
That'd be a qualification.
How do we even know what the political views of an applicant are?
Well, again, I don't think this board, and Tom, you've been around, I've been around with you a long time. I don't think we knew half of the people that own the property, much less what political persuasion or their religion was on all the hundreds and hundreds of cases that this board has heard. So
Exactly.
I wanted to, and it's dangerous ground that that's getting proposed out there. I'm not bringing any names into anything, but it's scary stuff, and I just wanted to make a comment about it. Like I said, I don't even know half the time, everybody knows me, maybe I'm a little out there. I don't even know who owns these properties half the time. So it doesn't matter to me. It really matters. It's the project that matters more than
So,
the property.
was it a blanket statement that you shouldn't vote on, is that applied to all of the applications that have come before the board, or just certain ones?
Well, it's out there on social media that a Republican should not, is in conflict of interest for voting on a project owned by a Republican. That's part one.
What kind of a violation of?
Conflict of interest.
It really
Right, a
is, it
civil
really
right?
is nonsense. It really is just plain nonsense.
All of that. This is scary stuff,
Oh, I know, the stuff that's out
what's going
there.
on
Well-
out there, and I'm not mentioning any name, you guys can connect the dots, maybe.
I think
You know,
we're a
this,
nonpartisan board, though.
what's that?
Says we're
Yeah, but there are some people
nonpartisan.
who don't
Well,
believe in.
but this question came up, I'm not sure if it was the infamous April meeting. It came from the attorney for that Beacon of Hope, where they challenged you, being a member and a participant on the board. And I thought I ended it rather quickly. I said, members of the board, the board are appointed by the mayor, and you are an alternate, and during the course of a meeting, we needed you to participate because people were vacant.
Yeah, that's not this, but, again, my comment was purely based on his parking plan, his traffic plan. It was, and they came back with a worse traffic, in my view. So that was that, and of course, they asked you to get rid of me, but if they sued, I'm not gonna discuss the case, but that's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
This is a purely partisan, guillotine coming down that a Republican has no right to vote on a project for a Republican. You guys connect the dots. I'm not going there. I got Bob, Bob and I talked today, because it may have been right. If it wasn't, it was scary to me that, we're gonna start going down that road. And then next thing, like I said, Protestants can't vote for Protestants, and Catholics can't vote for Catholics. Where's it gonna end, you know what I'm saying? So, just bring it up, and I just think it's an insult to not only me, but an insult to you all, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because, you come up here and your integrity gets questioned, and you really gotta have guts to serve and thick skin, because today it's ugly, especially on social media, all the
terrible.
big it's big typus, you know, and you can't really go down the rabbit hole of trying to defend yourself, you
Isn't
know.
that like a civil liberties issue? That's kind of,
Well, I'll tell you that I know where you're at coming from, because there's a person I know that does the same thing, and I'm gonna tell you, you do a wonderful job of being correct most of the time and very careful. So,
You know, I like having a little, I mean, we all like having a little say in our town. We're up here
Yeah.
because we want to know what's going on. I mean, call us whatever you want, you know, but I think this board has been a great board. I've been, you know, on and off it for the 18 years I've been in town. And I don't think it's ever made a bad decision. I really don't. And if anything, this board has been pro helping people. And like I always lecture people, all we want to do is create a record, like Kathy was trying to explain today with these folks. We're just trying to create a record of what you're doing up there, you know? And sometimes it gets misunderstood, but I just wanted to let you know, I think it was an insult. And it's okay, you don't like me, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. But when you don't like people that are, you know, that I know and that are doing right, I got a problem with that, you know what I mean? I just thought I'd let you know. It's out there, and who knows where it's going, you know?
I read these comments, but I never can, I stay out of them. I read them, but I don't comment, because you can't. You get down, like you said, it's a rabbit
Well,
hole.
I'm still the chairman of the Republican Party in town, and if I open my mouth, I don't want to hurt my candidate, you know what I mean? I try not to, but, you know, confront me face to face, you know.
I hear you.
Just, you know, the stuff on, it's just, you know, we argue with the other party for years on the committee, and we go home, and a lot of them came to my house, and we got it over. To argue now, it's on social media for
Yeah.
like 2 weeks, you know what I mean? It's not like, you know, you can
And
get
people
it
that
over
know
with.
nothing about what really happened.
Pardon me?
And people that know nothing about what's really
Yeah,
going
and
on.
it's
get involved.
characterized in a very craftful way to cast doubts on the integrity of
Yeah.
this board and the committee. That this
Right.
board is illegitimate in some of the projects that have been approved in this town. And I just can't believe it, you know, and I wanted to mention it to everybody.
It is.
okay, any other comments from board members? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, we're at the adjournment stage. Have somebody make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Good.
oh my goodness, the
All in
entire
favor?
board.
Goodbye.
Pick us and Irene.
So done.
Horse load.
Yeah. Fences are down now.
Daytime,
All right.
fine, but that